All right, sorry about the long pre-stream there. Coffee was a priority. Hi. How are we? Are my buds all... Oh, they're fine. Okay. I felt extra tangled this morning. Hi. Winter, what are you doing talking about WoW legendaries? That's weird. Hi. Today's gonna be an interesting stream. Fair warning. Gonna be a lot of redstone talk today. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous because I guarantee there's at least 100 people in chat that know more redstone than I do, and this is gonna be embarrassing because I'm not gonna remember how any of it works. There's gonna be a lot of though that's actually not true what you're saying, and you know, whatever. It'll be interesting though. Yeah, like I've always said, I'm not the best at redstone. I'm just really good at applying it in different situations, I feel like. So we'll figure it out as we go. We'll figure it out as we go. So what I plan to do is I'm basically just gonna do a tour of all the redstone in Decked Out. I have no idea how long this will take. Probably a while. For those of you that are not interested in redstone, fair warning. This might not be the stream for you. What else? Oh, we're gonna do questions. Okay, I have if you have a question about try and keep it to redstone and not game design though for today. If you have a redstone question about how something works, feel free to be like Q&A : and then ask the question. The little Q&A in front will help me and the mods find the questions that you have. If I see it, I will answer it as best I can. If I don't see it, the mods will add it to a Google Doc that we're monitoring, and I'll be able to read questions there. So your question, if I don't answer it right away, hope that it will be on the spreadsheet that I will also answer. Are any hermits joining? No, I don't believe so. Yeah, Bird, something like that works. Yeah, and don't spam the same question over and over and over and over again. And don't ask me how redstone works or what a comparator does, because I don't know the answer. How does a redstone torch work? Yeah, exactly that. Techtopia 2024 confirmed yet? Oh yeah, it's almost done. Next version and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Danners, thank you so much. Dang, it was a redstone systems engineer, not a redstone electronics engineer. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I'm good at applying redstone. I'm not good at actually figuring out redstone. Okay, so I don't have any specific place to start on. I was thinking, and I think I'm gonna probably just do most of this in free cam if that's okay. Although I may need to like check the contents of hoppers and droppers and stuff. If I could think about major areas here, that music feels a little bit bright, a little bit loud. Let me turn that down a little bit. If I can think about major areas here, like starting here, not starting there, starting here, we have the Clank system, the hazard system, the treasure system, and the frost ember system. And then the floor system that determines where to send the treasures and the embers and stuff. That's all one area I could focus on. The card processor, deck unloader, happy fun time, everything over here is another whole thing. The card announcer is another whole big area of conversation. The shop, the Frost Ember shop is a good place. So yeah, start with event emitters maybe. Yeah, I think I'm gonna start with the Clank and the hazard and all that stuff first. Let me get this up. Oh my gosh, all the questions already. Okay, you start at the entrance. I mean, we can go through in a logical way, I guess. You want to start at the top? There's no logic here. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's go up to the top. Let's go up to the top, I suppose. I don't know how much. I mean, I'm gonna be skipping a lot of redstone that is not like this. I'm not gonna go over this because this is just, it's not even a system. It's just all of this is like for when the game is ready and when the stuff returns and handling. I'm not gonna go over all this because it would take me forever to remember how it works, and it's just a lot of very specific special case code of like how to make these 3 lights work, quite honestly, and knowing the state of the game and everything. So some stuff I'm going to skip. A lot of this is also the door. I can briefly talk about how the door works, if that makes sense. Build order. I don't remember what order I built it in. How does card processor know what floor the player is on, or is it a global effect? It's a global effect. When treasure is added, how do you make sure that the dungeon drops a maximum of 1 treasure on the floor randomly? I don't. Sometimes when treasure drops, nothing happens. When I get to the treasure system, I'll talk about how like when you see when a card has like +1 treasure, that doesn't actually mean 1 treasure is being dropped in the dungeon. How does the fake artifact display and at the end show the same type of artifact you collected? I'll show you that when we get down to the it's really related to the frost ember artifact exchange system. Okay, so all of these books here, basically this is the magic that we added for the armor stand mod. Has a new they call it an animation system. I really don't think it's good for animations because the update rate is too slow, but it is good for changing the state of an armor stand in between 2 different poses. And that's what you can do here is basically you have a book. You can copy the state of an armor stand and put it in one of these books, and then if you power the block that the book is in with like an item frame, it'll set the nearest armor stand to that pose. So this took a long time because I had to get these books in position such that there was like they had to save the pose correctly, but they also had to like be associated to the correct armor stand. So like there's 3 armor stands right here. These 3 books right here all are closest to the armor stand associated to it. So it's does that make sense? It's kind of tricky, but the armor stand stuff is really cool, and I plan to use it a lot more next season. I think I don't think I have any specific uses of it yet, but I'm excited for it. So yeah, when you see a book like this, just know that redstone powering, it's totally arbitrary, right? But it's just the way that the data pack works. Anytime you redstone power the same block that the book is in, because that book is technically in this block, it sets the nearest armor stand to that. So that's basically what all of these books are doing everywhere you see them. There's a lot of books all over the place here for setting the various armor stands of the door. Will there be a list of stuff that you need to download to make the world? We're going to have a stream next week. It's going to be the world download stream, and we're going to cover everything then for the world download. What you need to do as a new player, how are you going to start it? What kind of things might you need to maintain? That kind of thing. How am I feeling? I'm feeling great, Grim. How are you? Thank you for the raid. Mrs. C is better, yeah. She was sick the last few days. What else? This right here is redstone I added at the end just to release the just after the dramatic cards be finished. I still gotta fix Scar's card there. That's my fault. Other than that, yeah, I'm not gonna really, like I said, I'm not gonna go crazy over any of this stuff because it's all just crazy logic redstone that is very, very specific. This right here is the difficulty selector, or choose your difficulty. They basically press a button there, it fires the redstone. No, what does that dust do? What does that dust do? I don't know, because when you do the when you press the button, you get a repeater there. That observer's watching that. Is there there isn't no, there's no observer above the dust though. We have an observer above the repeater and a observer below the repeater. Yeah, maybe. I didn't design this. I found this online and there was a tutorial, I put it in. But anyway, this is the what do you call it, selection here. So that essentially what you're doing is pushing, there's one item in all of these droppers here. So when you activate it, it will, the item gets pushed into this dropper. When you deactivate it, it's probably for the deactivation code, I forget. It pushes the item away. So you should only have one of these comparators on at a time based on whichever dropper has the item in it, which will light the appropriate lamp. And it also, you see this dust, this line down here, only one of these will actually be powered because it's getting a signal strength 1 because there's only like one item in the dropper, so it only gets a signal strength 1. So it looks like it'll power down the line, but it doesn't, and it only powers one comparator here, and that goes down right here. You see these pistons when when the game starts, it pushes all these piston heads forward. So then based on the comparator that is active, it only powers that dust. Okay, let me actually go up here for this because this is how the level selection stuff works. Is it the reset line? That makes sense, yeah. Doctor, thank you for the 3141. Happy Redstone Q&A stream. When you get to it, what's the part of the redstone that you thought would be super easy but ultimately was the bane of your existence? Secondly, the opposite, which redstone did you dread but ultimately was really quite simple? I don't know what to say. I mean, I could say like the most complicated redstone that I think is the most impressive and I had to get help with is the card callout redstone, how it's doing signal length, strength, and length encoding in one line. We'll get to that and I'll try to explain it and I'll fail horribly, but it's super cool. What's the part of the redstone that you thought would be super easy? I don't think there was anything that generally, if I think something's going to be easy, it turns out to be easy, and if something's hard, it generally turns out to be hard. So I don't know that there were any that surprised me, but I feel like that's a cop-out answer too, though. I don't know. What was I doing here? Oh yeah. This guy. Okay, so the way let me go over here. Actually, it's a little bit. This is how it determines when you choose your difficulty level what compass you get. And it's actually kind of cool. It's a multi-step process. If I can actually jump up here. Okay. So again, the level selector here, only one of the comparators will be on. All of these blocks push forward. One of these droppers will turn on. So the way it works is because I needed to have 16. Every difficulty level has 16 compasses associated to it. Basically 16 compasses. And you can't fit 16 items in one dropper. So what I did instead is I filled these with 4 and 4 of like. See how it just says dropper 9 and dropper 10? Those are for the higher ones. Let's do the easy ones here. So like we have 4 of these that say dropper 1 and 4 of these that say dropper 2. So there's a 50-50 item whether you're going to get dropper 1 or dropper 2 essentially here. And then those spit out and go down to this secondary sorter here, which there's a sorter for dropper 1 and a sorter for dropper 2. Hey! And then depending on which one of those you do, it fires the appropriate dropper here. So there's 8 in here, 8 in here, and that's your 16 what do you call it, compasses that you're gonna get. A live example, yeah. Matt Moss, thank you for the gift subs. Thank you so much. So that's that. Again, when you're choosing your difficulty, all it does is determine which compass you get. But this way here, we're guaranteed to have an even likelihood of getting all 16 compasses by making it a multi-phase approach like that. What else? Like I said, I'm not going to try to remember all of the crazy logic here because a lot of it's just timings for the doors and repeater chains because I needed to add a couple seconds to get the delay just right to sync up with the audio, things like that. Up here is that's when the game reset line. Where's this guy right here? So when you, in the coin crown converter down below, you're like when you're done and you have like a whole bunch of coins and you throw them in the coin converter, it doesn't actually send crowns up. It just sends a signal up. And then in fact, I got to restock this for the world download. It sends a signal up from all the way down there up to here to say how many for each one, for each crown that you're supposed to give them. So the crowns aren't actually traveling, just a signal pulse for each one. We've been lied to? What? Why is there a chest in the corner? This chest, that's where I had extra compasses for levels 3 and 4. This chest here, this is for, if that's what you're talking about, that's for aligning items, because the chest, this is a standard trick that's been around forever for water streams. If you want to send an item over a series of hoppers but still have it move at ice speed, you want to have the item, the hitbox of the item actually straddle both the ice and the hoppers, so that it gets the benefits of both. It can go fast because it's on the hopper, or because it's on the ice, but it can also get evaluated and sucked into each of the hoppers. So by sending an item down here, this block, the chest is less than a full block, so the item can slide a little bit past. You see that little extra, like 1/8 of a block right there? The item can slide off that, and then it gets sent down here underneath all of these slabs, and that's just a standard way of making an item sorter. But that chest is important for alignment. Without that chest, the hoppers wouldn't be able to pick it up. You could use cake, you can use ender chest, you can use a lot of things there. Honey does the same thing. Yeah, there's many blocks that will do the same thing. Why did the converter keep breaking? Oh, it's still broken and I haven't fixed it, so I don't know. I suspect it's got something to do with the order in which it sends coins and crowns through. When we go down there, I can show you what my theories are, but I'm not quite sure. Holy cow, there's a lot of questions. Okay, do you have an idea for max Clank penalty specific for level 4, like Agronet and Vex of other levels? Again, that's not really a redstone question. I know that one came from before the stream. No, I didn't plan to have a immediate Clank penalty for level 4. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay, because acquiring Clank on level 4 is still giving you a penalty on the other levels when you go up. How do you limit the number of cards popping up in the card shop? We'll talk about that when we get to the card shop. How does the artifact hand-in system know how much each is worth? Again, when we get to the artifact hand-in system, a lot of these are going to be like kind of just wait till we get to that part, but I will definitely talk about a lot of these. What's your favorite part of the redstone to build? Silence. Probably the signal length, the card announcer encoder was very cool. How does the redstone work for moving up and down the levels, and why does the reset timer not get shortened when someone died on level 2 or lower? That would have been an optimization that is taking certain things. You're saying basically, oh, excuse me, if you die on level 3, the reset timer could be less because by the time they get down there, arguably those items will be destroyed. I don't want to get into any of that. I think that's way too complicated, and it's also making assumptions on how fast they're going to proceed through the levels and stuff. So 5 minutes was good all around. How does the redstone move when working up and down levels? Well, we're going to get to the for the treasure and frost ember drops and stairs opening and closing. That'll all be a system that we will get to. Did you build the systems in the right order, or would you have started somewhere else if you're doing it again? The only mistake I made was the entire card calling out system was a massive thing. That's just tons of dead redstone down there right now that I should have never done. If I did it the way I ended up was way better. There was a lot of systems that just got better, either because I came up with a different way myself, or because I got help to come up with a different way, or because something with the audio player checked out. There's a lot of things that just got better as we went. Did I build the systems in the right order? Though generally I think I did, yeah. What redstone do you feel could condense the best or be made more efficient? The bus lines are too fat. They took up too much space. The redstone wiring out to the map system was very whatever. I didn't care. That could have been much more compact. Generally, I'm not a redstoner who really cares about compactness because there's infinite space for the most part. If there's something that's like, the only things that were like really needed to be compact were like the actual treasure and frost ember droppers, and those aren't that compact, but because there's so many of them sprinkled in, you know, the compass drop-offs and the lodestone things and everything, those need to be fairly compact, which was one of the reasons I didn't put filters on them. But all the other systems that are on the outskirts have generally one direction where you can move the redstone in, and it's not a problem at all. How did the scrapped 120 chance to scrap a card work? For what I can recall, it was built but never used. Correct. If I remember, that might have been ripped out, I think now. But I think I basically just did a 1 in 5 chance with a 1 in 4 chance following it, which gives you a 1 in 20 chance. I don't remember what that. I don't even remember if it was actually 1 in 20 or not. But yeah, we never used it. But if you take two dropper randomizers and serialize them, you get the multiplicative chance of both of them together. So if you put like a 1/3 followed by a 1/2, you get a 1/6 chance. So that's how I did the 120. I think I did a 5 and a 4. Okay, we'll bounce between questions on the list here and continuing on for other stuff. Is there anything else up here? There is the card shop here, but this is very much like the well, actually maybe it's easier to show this here, and then because the same design is down in the Frost Ember shop. They're both the same card system. Yeah, this one might be a little bit easier to show here. What component wouldn't have benefited the most by wireless redstone? Oh, jeez. Treasure drops and Frost Ember drops, probably. Artifact pickup, hazard, or not hazard, Clank generated. Any of these things where there's a many to one or a one to many, and by that I mean like Clank generated is a many to one. There's many places where Clank can be generated, and it all has to funnel into one place. And conversely, there's like treasure drops and Frost Ember drops is one place where it's generated, but the event needs to be sent out and broadcast to like 80 places. Any of those places, wireless redstone would have been insanely beneficial. What caused the incorrect toggle in the first card on the map, and how would you do the maps redstone differently? When I get out there, I'll show you, but it's the way I did it is a 1-tick pulse toggle, and that if that 1-tick pulse isn't clean, in other words, like two things hit it at the same time, I think, and you get 1 tick instead of 2 quick 1 ticks, it just gets out of sync. That whole system was done poorly. The part that I did was done poorly. We'll ask for command blocks? No, absolutely not. Could I turn the music off? I could. It just gets weird talking to myself and I don't have any background music. It's more for me. How close is the run count to 2,000? Well, 1470 plus that. You can math it up. What do you got there?
I feel like I'm missing some holiday hats.
So you just decided to go with a giant moose instead?
I went with a moose.
Stability.
Fitting here.
What's wrong with your head? Why doesn't it fit the
Melon.
moose? Can't see. We just
I
about
want
done?
people to see the moose. Moose. Where is squirrel?
I can't see. I can raise the camera if that's an issue. There you go.
Gotcha. Where is squirrel?
You're old. Are we done?
Now.
Okay.
Where are all the holiday
I know there was a lot of holiday. They gotta be in there. You gotta dump it.
I think that you got rid of.
Did someone add it up? 1932. That's pretty awesome. Thank you for doing the mathification. It is cozy actually, but it's a little bit top heavy. You couldn't tell. Let's go over the shop here. This is actually my design. It's not perfect, but it seems to be doing the job.
Nimble.
I gotta remember how it works now, though. You want to explain to them how it works?
Well, first you have to do this, and then you gotta go and run it that way, and then you have to go and put it. This goes right here.
Okay.
And you have to make that thing right there and make it go.
I like that. I mean, that's crystal clear. That's good. It's good. Yeah. See that? That was some next level. I mean, she obviously left out some of the trivial parts that she just assumes you guys know, and glanced over the high level stuff. She doesn't want to bore you with the minutia. Okay, how does this work? Up here, these are the shulkers where you put your currency in. In this case, it's crowns. Down below, it is frost embers. So you put those in there, and then there's a filter right here that is only setting up a standard item filter that's only accepting the item in question. Those go over here when one goes in there, they're signaling 3. Double comparator here for a reason I forget, probably for spacing or something. That's just your standard sorter though. Basically, we put a double comparator. I think, I'm not sure why. But anyway, let's see what happens. Oh right, the comparator there, because we wanted a signal. If we used a repeater, it would have set the signal strength to be maximum. We used the comparator there to keep it at a signal strength of 1. So it powers that block and goes down there. So the torch is for the sorter, but what's going down here is for the actual purchase part. And you only want that signal length of 1 to go down here. Otherwise, it'll start to go down the line and power multiple ones. So it's enough to turn off just the torch in the line. In the line that they put the coin, that the crowns are going into. So for each tick that it counts a crown, this torch will turn off for like 1 tick, and that allows items to go from this hopper into this hopper. And you'll see every one of these has got the amount of items in it that correlates to the cost of the item there. So if you put 10 crowns in there, it's going to allow 10 of these counter items to go from here into there. Again, this line is locked here. And once it is empty, that comparator will then turn off, which turns the torch behind it on and powers the dropper down below it, which spits the item out for you to purchase. Kind of cool. And then when the shop resets, which is over there, I'll show that in a second. When the shop resets, this line turns off for a period of time, allowing all the items that were, all the counter items that were put here to just slowly flow back in and reset all the purchases, basically. That makes sense. Over here is the randomizer to determine what items will be available in the shop every time the shop resets. So down here, for each item, I simply have like 1 sword, and I have like some amount of non-stackables and some amount of stackables. So this is the frozen shard, because it correlates to the first item here. There's frozen shard right there. It's all based on slices here. So this one has a 2/3 chance every time the shop resets to be available for that time. So this turns off here, and then when it turns back on at the same time this turns on, the dropper will pick 1 item. Oh, it looks like it's not. It looks like it's, yep, because there was an extra item there. Looks like it's a 50-50 chance now. So the item that got put in there is a non-stackable. So the comparator that reads it on the other side will not reach the target block here, and therefore the torch will not turn on. And then there's basically alternating honey and slime blocks here. One of them, and it will get, when the item is available for purchase, that will get pushed up, which raises the armor stand and makes the item on the armor stand actually pop up. I'm like super happy with how this worked, with like displaying the item popping up when it's available for purchase. I think that worked out really good. Oh, inky.
Frost.
Oh, and the same RS block locks the hopper below. Yes, exactly. So that redstone there also, when it lifts up, is what's locking the hopper here so that it cannot take any further coins. So once the item is no longer available for purchase, the armor stand lowers, because when this torch is on, it powers through here. So this torch here can be on for 2 reasons. One, it's either on, it's been selected this reset period, and it has not been purchased yet, because once it's been purchased, the torch turns off, the item lowers. And when the item lowers, this redstone block here hits the repeater, which locks the hopper, preventing any further crowns from being put into that slot, so you can't buy anymore. This is the randomizer. I'll be honest, I don't know how this works. It's magic. But this right here, this piece right here is a simple randomizer. If you guys take like 1 or 2 things away from this stream, this is one of the really good things I would recommend. A redstone block with an armor stand on it is a really good simple, compact randomizer. As you guys know, the redstone ore glows. And it's about it could be anywhere from 3 seconds. I think we just got a really quick one actually. But the armor stand is an entity on top of it. So every time the redstone ore stops glowing, it immediately starts glowing again on the same tick. So you get a 1 tick pulse. I think according to the wiki, it's about every 45, 60 seconds or something like that. But super high variance, right? It could be 10 seconds. It could be 3 minutes. So it's if you don't care what the time is, you just want some event to go off. So I use these a lot for a lot of the like ambient audio effects and everything. You'll see like some of the ice cracking and stuff is all based on using this system. And then every time that does get an update, it kicks one of these items here over to here. Not going to go into the rest of it. Again, this is a tutorial I downloaded for like a long-term counter kind of thing. But once all the items are out of here, that's when the shop will reset. I think that's it for the shop. In terms of, you know, down here, the items you've seen, like this is your pay to win, your pork chop power. Some of them have randomizers here. So like when you buy a mystery key, you're going to get one of these items. When you buy a mystery, what did I call it? Mystery item. Oh, this one's the random key. This is the mystery item right now that you're getting. It looks like some of the droppers are out, so the percent chances are being a little off. I gotta populate this again. Oh, that's a serialized counter, not a probability system. Right, Zing. It's basically like a 2-hour clock is what that is with some variance. I don't know how long it takes to reset the shop, but this is essentially a 2-hour clock. Hang on, I'm dying. Okay. Etho joined the game. But this whole process here is basically like a 2-hour clock that resets the shop. And if I want to shorten it, all I got to do is take some items out of here. I don't think there's anything else of real interest down here. No. All right. Any other questions on the shop? While I'm here, this is the audio system for calling out just for the sound to play the appropriate sound when you make a purchase.
The dungeon is ready for its next victim.
I have no idea why the Easter egg is here, or the dragon egg is here. I have no idea. Someone else put it there, not me. Is there an estimate of how many hoppers that may need refilled over time? It depends what you're talking about. Are you talking about for like treasure and frost embers? Are you talking about for the shop or? And it's really droppers I'm repopulating, not what do you call it? Not hoppers. Okay. Did you ever how to do the lock for the cost of the items at the shop? Did you go over how to do the lock for the cost of the items? The lock meaning how to stop accepting crowns after the purchase has been made? Is that what we're talking about? So how it counts what you pay. Ah, yes, I did go over it. It's essentially standard sorting system right here, except we're using a comparator here instead of a repeater because we want to keep just that one signal strength from back here to power this guy down here. Using the comparators allows us to not power the full row. It just powers the one block, which turns the torch off. And then right here we've got depending on it counters based on the cost of the item. So the frozen shard costs 10 items. So every time you put a crown in there, that torch turns off for 1 tick, allows one item here to go in over here into this locked hopper. And then when that hopper is empty, comparator turns off, torch turns on, powers the item, gives you the shard. And then when the shop resets, all the items flow back into the original thing, resetting. I gotta say, honestly, of redstone that I was responsible for, this shop is probably one of the best things that I came up with on my own. Kind of proud of how this shop works. That's why I used it twice. Torches don't burn out. No, because the tick rates, because you're looking at a sorter here that's like what, 1 for the comparator, 2, 3, it's a 4-tick item sorter. So it's you know, on for 4 ticks, off for 4 ticks, I think, for each crown you put in there. So that's gonna make it slow pulling the crowns in, but you get a nice clean pulse on the torch down there below. Okay. We will do some question. Oh my gosh. Could the bus have been instant wire? I was wondering if that could have cut down the amount of time to process the clank sounds. Yeah. So my interpretation of instant wire is like inverse piston retraction is how I use instant wire, and I didn't want to use redstone because redstone is really laggy. The amount of updates when a redstone line updates on the server is really extensive. So for things that are happening a lot, like treasure drops, frost ember drops, Clank generated, those kind of things, any event that is generated many times during the course of an event, I wanted to use the powered rails because they have virtually 0 lag compared to redstone dust, at the cost of, yes, it does take a little bit more time. You can use instant rail lines. Oh, right. In fact, I used instant rail lines for the instant item dropper stuff. So yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not 100% familiar with the I gotta take this off. I can't be taken seriously when I have that on. I'm not 100% familiar with how to do instant lines with powered rails. It probably would have been better, but it also probably would have been bulkier. I think you need to like double stack some stuff and have observers on top or something like that, and that space would have been prohibitive in some of those places where it gets really compact. I'm taken seriously? No, generally not. Yeah. How do you program the dungeon to recognize Ethos deck and increase difficulty? That's totally not a thing that happens at all. There's definitely not an Etho mode, as far as you know. Let me delete that one. Can you show a creative world out of all the tileable shop modules that you use in the Ember Crown shop? I don't think I have one that's a single tile. I have a copy of the shop in my creative world where I designed it, but it's literally what's right here, so the world download will be just as good, and I just showed it pretty good, I think, so I'm not gonna do it, unfortunately, just because of time. Was this something you really wanted to do but turned out to be technically impossible? Probably. There were probably some cards that I didn't do. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Were there cards? Yeah, I don't know. It would take me a while to come up with an answer for that. But yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Generally, there's like one of the first passes I go through when I think of an idea is not, is it fun, but is it possible? You should always make sure you can do something before you decide should you do something. Like a lot of times when I'm thinking about redstone and stuff, I get so excited about how the redstone will work and I want to solve the redstone, only to realize an hour later that I don't even want to use that system. So that's advice. Make sure you actually want something and you should use something before you solve it. Does all this redstone application impact lag on the server? Not to my knowledge. I didn't run any metrics or anything, but I don't really think Decked Out is that redstone intensive. There's very few things that are like happening all the time. It's basically just an event every 30 seconds here and there and stuff. So I think it's really lightweight. I don't think it's going to cause any problems. I want to know about the floor system. How does it track and what? Yeah, we're going to get to that. We will get to that one. How does card processor know what floor the player? That seems to be a common question. We will definitely get to that. It's one of the more interesting solutions. When treasure is added, how do you make sure the dungeon drops a maximum of 1 treasure on the floor randomly? Again, we talked about that. I think I read this one already. It doesn't. I'll show you. You'll see that when we get to the treasure system. That'll be very clear. Some of these we've already done. Yeah, let me jump a little bit here. How does the game reset to the same state each time? I mean, that's on a case-by-case basis, but every system has to be. So you'll see purple lines everywhere in my redstone. Let's go down below. Purple wool is the power line. Anytime you see purple wool with redstone dust on it, that's the power line. And every system that maintains state has to use the purple line somehow to know when the game turns off, how do I reset? But it's a case by case basis. So, I mean, for instance, let me find a hazard. Where's there a hazard blocker around here?
Treasure hunter.
Hazard is orange. Oh, hi friend. Let me kill this guy first, and I'll show you how hazard. Hazard is very simple, but it's a good example of like showing you how things reset, like how the hazard doors know to all reset and open up when the game ends. Slimes are great. So this is a standard hazard event processor. Hazard events are just broadcast throughout the entire dungeon on this orange line here. This orange line here, and it's going through it like down a bus line down here and everything like that. Let's see. We'll do one. Where's one that's clean right here? Okay, so the orange line comes in, observer hits it, drops a randomizer, and I typically use a 1 in 7 is what I was using for most of the hazard doors. So every time a hazard event generates, there's a 1 in 7 chance that each hazard door will close. In retrospect, this probably should have been 1 in 8 or 1 in 9. I should have toned it down a little bit. But depending on what's picked here, if the shovel is picked, compare to reset, you'll get a signal length greater than 1, which will power this dropper. This is just an irrelevant item token that pops over into this hopper here. When the purple line, the game is on, as you can see right now, this hopper is locked. So if this kicks over here, that will power that over here. I just lifted this guy right here. You guys are familiar with this hazard trap here, but someone's in the dungeon, so we'll kick it back over there. And when the power goes off, that hopper allows the item to flow back, and the hazard wall goes back the way it should be. I know Cub's playing, yeah. So this is generally how things reset. They have to respect the purple line. So when this goes off, that hopper unlocks and just simply puts the item back to its original step. It's pretty simple stuff. That's how a lot of stuff works. Okay. Does the hazard line only power on the current level the player is on, or do you avoid level 4 hazard going off? A hazard is a global event. So when hazard goes off, it is broadcast to the entire dungeon. So you might be on level 1 and doors are closing on level 3 before you get there. Could have been different. It could have been respective of the floor you're on, but I just didn't think that was necessary. If it turned out too many doors were closing, I could have just changed the global chance instead of having a floor aware hazard system. It didn't seem necessary. I do have a way to activate Ethan mode. Yes, it's in the hideout. Yeah. It is better global, I think. Yeah, I agree. Okay. That was the reset line. I can delete that one. What would have stumbles be digital rather than physical cards having changed both? What would having stumbles be digital rather than physical cards have changed both positively and negatively? Oh, by digital, you mean not actually sending a stumble card down the processor? It turns out it actually was easier to make it a physical card because it just conformed with the rest of the system. And it did have the side effect that I had to loop them back. So if they were digital, as you're saying, if I understand what you're saying, and it was more of an event that pulsed something out, I wouldn't have had to loop the cards back, which would have been better. But I would have had to circumvent the whole card processing system, and I wouldn't have been able to do things with stumble cards that I wanted to do, like recycle them, for instance. I know everyone hates that they can be recycled, but to me, that's part of it. So there would have been some pros and cons, but I think having things conform to consistent systems is more important than making special cases. Special cases inevitably cause bugs. How does the card announcer work? Yeah, we'll get there. How do hazard events and hazard block work? I've seen hazard traps and doors activate while the map showed hazard block, which confused it. There could be a bug. I'll be perfectly honest. I will show you how it works. I will not attempt to fix the bugs, but yeah. A lot of these questions are just like, hey, how does this system work that we haven't gotten to yet? So I'm kind of skipping them. How does treasure embers get dispersed? I think you said before that each spot has about a 1/3 chance. Well, we cannot. Let's go. Let's just start covering more systems, because a lot of these questions will get answered when we get to those systems, I think. So let's go up to what I call the big four up here. We got Clank, Hazard, Treasure, and Frost Embers all in a line here. I intentionally put them all here at this end of the system because I knew these would be centrally located and always loaded, and I knew I had plenty of space back to, like, if I needed to have the redstone go back and stuff like that. So in retrospect, I'm really happy with how these systems are here all adjacent. They're confusing for sure, but it's also easy to get to your global systems here. Did we already see the shuffler? No, I'll get to that.
Stability.
Is there a redstone limitation that made you pick 40 cards? Or is it just game design? Just game design. In retrospect, it probably should have been 35, maybe even 30. I think 40 might have been a little bit too high, but I don't think it was too bad. But no, 40 was a design choice. How much did you learn? Did you have any issues with running out of space when you wanted to add redstone? The card processor, Etho, yeah, the card processors, I would have made a block or two bigger. This is the card processors here, and for each, I basically have 4 trays, the quartz trays here. So here you go, here's a good example. That's how much space I had allocated to each individual card processor. In other words, all the redstone logic to handle a card and its inputs and outputs and stuff. So I only left myself a 4x6 area with 3 blocks vertically. I should have made these a little bit bigger. But this was a very important choice, because if I made, it would have been nicer to make them wider, but that would have kicked, there's like 10 of them or so, so that would have kicked this out another 10 blocks. So maybe this was the right choice, because as I'm doing it, there was a handful of times where it was getting super compact. Like, for instance, this guy here, this is the card processor for Deep Frost. It's overlapping into other people's things. The card processor for Reckless Charge is also fairly big. So there were times when I needed more space, but all I did then is I just put processors next to it that were simple, and I knew all I needed was a simple event that way I could go into the neighbor's space a little bit, knowing that I wouldn't need that space because it was a simple card as a neighbor. Welcome, Raiders. Falls, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. Welcome. Other than that, what other areas did I run out of space? In any of the external system processors, I don't think so. It did start to get a little bit, like, let's see, where's some of the places where, like, it's starting to get a little bit crazy in here with treasure and key unlocks and hazard and clank and everything. This is all underneath the throne room and stuff. So there are places where it starts to get a little bit dense with all of the, I guess we'll say, localized event handlers, but not too many places where I ran out of redstone. Ran out of space for redstone. Let's go talk about Clank. You've been a watcher on and off since the Zip Crowd Iron Farm era? Wow, old school. I can't pronounce your name, but Dritri? Thank you for the 5 goosebumps. How would I pronounce that? D-H-R-E-D? Thank you so much. Where would Autocrafter and Copper Bulbs help? Copper Bulbs, yes. Autocrafters, probably not. Not sure. Yup. I don't think Autocrafters would have really helped. I'm sure the Copper Bulbs would have, though, once I wrap my head around them, though.
Sneak.
Will we have to do any major maintenance in the world download, or will be mostly auto? My advice for the world download is, if your droppers run out or anything like that, just recopy your world. Like, there's no reason to maintain. You're not running a live server, I would imagine. So you should be able to just copy the world back over. If you're gonna spend more time on one thing, which would it be? Oof. I mean, redstone-wise, not much. Design-wise, I really wish I had like little quests and stuff like that. But in terms of redstone, I don't think there's too many systems that at this point I'm regretting. There probably isn't. I'm forgetting. You think this would be possible on Bedrock? Not with what I have here. What I have here will not work on Bedrock. No. The sound is such a huge part of the deck out. Is there a sound feature you didn't get to? Yeah. We were gonna have more sounds on level 4, I think. I'm trying to remember. We got to most of the sounds. I'd have to go through my backlog with my sound guy, but there was a couple things I was like, listen, we gotta hit the brakes here.
Stability.
But I would say we got to 90% of the sound stuff we wanted to do. What has cost you the most time and could you improve it? The card call out system, the one that is thrown away, cost me a lot of time to do, and I threw it all away. And it's been improved with the new system, which we'll go over. I hope that's your question. How does the eco lever work? Oh, that's too advanced. I don't have time to explain all that. Did you have anything like a cheat sheet or overview sheet of all the systems? Yeah. I've always talked about my spreadsheet here. I'm not gonna show it now because that would just be a rabbit hole. But one of the things, for instance, on my spreadsheet was a visual copy of my bus line. The bus lines being the 4x4. Hello, move. Bus lines being these 4x4 colors here. So in my spreadsheet, I just had a 4x4 matrix with colors in the backgrounds, and then a key that said like, oh, brown is this, and pink is this, and you know, light blue is this. So I wouldn't have to remember what each color, what bus line it is. I would just be able to look over to that. So that was a little cheat sheet. Did your sound guy get a job at Mojang? He applied. I don't know. I haven't heard back. I do love my spreadsheets. Yes, Turk. Will there be a decked out 3 someday?
Smash and grab.
Oh, he didn't? Okay. What was your full pan for the forge? Oh, plan? I've talked about that. That's not for this stream. That's more for that was in the what was left out stream. Go there. I talked about that. Yeah, okay. Planning is the most important thing. If you're gonna do a project this size, planning is everything. For the compass user, is using an ice block water item moving system necessary? No, but I think it was necessary because I wanted to randomize each difficulty onto 16 different compasses. I think it was necessary to have like a 2-tier system like that, but you could have just done that with a hopper line too. Besides the color coding on the bus line, how did you keep track of what wiring did what? Color coding helped a lot. Like I've never done a project that had color coding in it before, but it really helped this time, like a lot, because you know, I could just be up here someday and I could know green, that's a treasure line, right? Orange, that's a hazard line. And those things made a big difference when I wanted to just like tie into lines. Like here's a good example right here, right? This is the only case where there's treasure and frost embers that drop for level 2, but they drop from the ceiling, so I cheated and I just tied them into the level 1 droppers. Pros and cons. The pros were it was very easy for me to just go, oh look, a green line, boop, 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 and tie it in right here. The downside was that treasure was dropping on level 2 while you were on level 1, so there's a better chance that stuff is going to rot by the time you got down there. Yeah, so for those curious, if you ever saw an item floating in the water right here, or if you saw an item, I think right here on that block, those were ones that dropped from above, like right there and stuff. What is something redstone planning related that you learned while building decks that you'll use in every game you build after this? This is the first time I ever did anything with like signal length and signal strength encoding, and I am no expert at it, but it was very cool to understand and see what you could do with it. is it's a way to send a lot of data over a single line. I simplified that on my own. Like, for instance, when you open a staircase, where is it? When you open a staircase, all of these lines right here are incoming staircase events. Like, that's for levels 1 and 2. This is for level 3 and 4. These are simple cases of signal length encoding. If you are descending, it sends this, it pulses a 4-tick pulse on this line. If you are ascending, it sends a 1-tick pulse on this line. And then right here is like a little very crude decoder that can tell if it's ascending or descending, and then I can send that, like this gets sent to the deep frost card, for instance. The deep frost card knows that sucks, Gum. The deep frost card wants to know how many staircases you open, so that's why I had to disambiguate between staircases going down versus staircase coming up. Where conversely, all of them go over to the floor level indicator, which we'll show you before. Could you have encoded the exact entered level? I don't know what that means. What do each of the colors mean for the wool? Which ones are no longer needed? I mean, there are a handful that ended up not being used, I think. I don't know what they all are off the top of my head. A lot of them are like for instance, green is release treasure, yellow is treasure was, like a lot of them are incoming or outgoing. Every bus line here, every line in the bus system has like, it's either an outgoing system, meaning it comes from a system, is broadcast out, or it's an incoming line, meaning it happens somewhere in the dungeon and it needs to be fed into a central processor. Like red is Clank generated. You can tell by the way the observers are going, right? These observers here are going in that way toward my system processors, where the green line here is going out toward the actual things. Like this is treasure. No, which one is it? Let me see here. If I go to the treasure I can't remember if it's green. I think if it's green or yellow. Treasure line. Okay, yeah. So the yellow line is to queue a coin drop. So if you play a card that says +5 treasure, this line here will pulse 5 times. That's incoming treasure to be queued. The output of this is it's going to trigger the green line, I think. I forget. I don't remember the colors. It's really not important. Is it redstone you built now you wish you built differently? I mean, I've talked about a lot of things that I didn't like and were fixed. The card shuffler I'm very happy with now. The audio callout system I'm very happy with right now. I've been happy with the card processor all along. I don't think there's I think, oh yeah, one of the things I would do differently. Right now I'm using the player's actual cards, sending them through the system and everything. I wish in retrospect that I made a copy of the player's deck just for safety purposes and stuff like that, so that I could never lose their deck. That's probably something that would have been good. It would have taken a lot more work, but it probably would have been worth it. How did the redstone change go when going from level 4? It's done. Yeah, that's done, Pearl. I did that this morning. I wasn't sending a signal from coming back from level 4. Card copier starts malfunctioning. Yeah, well, you're probably ready though. There can always be a bug somewhere. That's always going to cause a problem. Yeah, Pearl, I wasn't sending a signal back from when you came from level 4 to level 3. We'll talk about it when I get to the, that's one of the things that people want to see about. So let me show the Clank system, the hazard system, the treasure and ember system, and then once we have the treasure and ember system discussed, we can talk about the floor level thing, because it's really a secondary part of the treasure and frost ember system. Yeah, Cub, thank you. Okay. Let's go over to the Clank system. This is way bulkier than it needs to be, and it's one of the first systems I did. But it is what it is. The heart of the Clank system is not that. The heart of the Clank system is this guy right here, okay? Counting snowballs that are in that hopper. And there's a loop here that goes from that hopper down to this hopper, into the barrel down there, into this dropper, chain up. So it just makes a loop. But essentially, when the game is off and you're starting, all of the items, all of the snowballs are in here, which means you have no heartbeat. Every time Clank is increased, some snowballs are pulled out of here, and they'll be sent down to this dropper down here. And then when the game turns off, all the snowballs are sent back to reset the system. What we have is some magic right here, and this is actually from an old Seth Blink video, where based on, I'm not even going to be able to explain this. It's a comparator cooldown timer essentially, but with more magic added and subtraction and stuff like that. Essentially, the more snowballs that are taken out of here, the quicker this pulse will be. This is the heartbeat system right here. So for instance, if I take out some items here, we should start hearing the heartbeat. Right? And as I take out more snowballs, the heartbeat will start picking up. Until all the snowballs are out. And then that's the one that you know is like, okay, they're at max. That's what everyone knows is like max heartbeat. So it's really just a question of how many snowballs are left in this hopper here. And all of this right here is just a pulse extender that generates the heartbeat for them. Over here is where, so the red line is incoming Clank, meaning like they stepped on a shrieker basically. You'll notice this guy had this rail on a piston line here. This is so that when the game is off, the piston retracts, because again the purple line is the power line. The game retracts, and this is if someone's stepping on Clank, it's not going to be triggering the. If someone's stepping on a shrieker while the game isn't on, it's not going to be like increasing heartbeat and stuff. So this is just a simple way for me to turn the whole system off by pulling that rail back. But if that comes in, this guy should be labeled. Yeah. Shriekers add Clank every other update. Right. So good point. When you trigger a shrieker, it actually signals this line twice because there's an observer watching the shrieker, and it signals it when the shrieker turns on, and then a few seconds later when the shrieker turns off. So you actually get 2 Clank events generated, so we have to ignore 50% of those. So we have basically like a little flip-flop with the observer here. So when the observer gets pushed this way, it will power this dropper, and then on the next tick, it will pull the observer back. So only half of the Clank generated is going to actually generate Clank, which is what it's supposed to do. When Clank is generated, it kicks an item from here over to here. We have a simple clock here, because if Clank is generated like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't want the Clank to go that fast. I want the Clank to be like, regardless, I want to separate the rate at which Clank is generated from the rate at which I push Clank into the Clank processor, just for ease. So if you generate 5 Clank immediately, it's going to take 10 seconds or so before that Clank is actually pushed into the system, so that you can hear the heartbeat change and stuff a little bit over time. So it's not immediate, and that's what this little slow clock is doing right there. When you queue up a block Clank, like if you play a sneak card or something, it is going to trigger. Hang on, I gotta remember how this works. The blue line. I think the blue line, right? Isn't there a sign right here? Yeah. So the blue line will trigger. When the blue line triggers, it kicks an item over from here into this hopper. This line will be powered on when the game is on. So if there's any items in here, however many items are in here, that's how much Clank block you have built up. So when you have Clank block, it's pushing, because that comparator's on, it's pushing this block over. When Clank is actually generated, like one of 2 things can happen. It can either be blocked, or it can actually increase your Clank. So whether that block is there or there determines which one of those 2 things happens. If the block is there, it does not power this. Instead, it powers down below and it goes actually into the Clank processor, turns that torch off, allows snowballs to be removed from the system. If that block is extended, meaning you actually have Clank block queued up instead, it will not power that down below. It'll power this instead, which will then decrement, kick one of the items back over there to decrement your Clank block, as well as send an event out that's saying, hey, your Clank was blocked, which then plays the tiptoe sound, and you know, some of the cards can process that, etc. I feel like I'm getting too much into the details here, but I think that's mostly it for Clank. There's other ways here, like this granite line is a add Clank from cards. If there's cards that add Clank, it comes in here and kind of bypasses the red line there, but just pushes directly in. And then when the system turns off, a lot of this has got to do is just a clock that, yeah, there's a pulse extender right there that will push this observer over here. That's your quick clock that refills the snowballs back up to the other guy over there. There are a couple cases in here where I needed to know whether or not you are at max Clank, and the way we do that, this might be later, but how did you count the Clank block for the map display? Yeah, right. So the way the map works is it's not the best, right? When I did the map, I was originally debating, do I want to send out the absolute value to the map, or do I just want to send incrementers and decrementers? In the end, sending incrementers and decrementers was easier, in my opinion, but it does have run the risk of getting out of sync and stuff. So I just need to make sure that anything I want to monitor, like Clank block, I send an increment and a decrement appropriately. So for instance, when Clank block happens, right, it hits this observer, which is kicking an item over here that we just talked about for the Clank block, but you'll also see this vertical observer stack here. It goes up, down here, and then all of this, these 5 lines here all go to the map system, like way out in the back, and you'll notice that they're all stacked, one above, one below, and I don't know which is which. We'll just say the one on top is for incrementing and the one below is for decrementing. So like this slice I'm on right here might be for like the treasure queue. It's not, but I'm making this up, right? The top line would be for add 1 treasure, the bottom line would be for decrement 1 treasure. So this is an example of a case where it was like super, I was super wasteful with the space and everything. But this is kind of like a secondary bus line for sending all the events out. Like they come here, they go up here, around the corner, tons of wiring here. And then you can see they start to branch out. Like that one's for the card counter. This next one is for whatever second, the Clank block. Then the third one filters off. That's for hazard block. And so on all, until you get all the way down to the frost ember queue. But again, those lines where I had to build a little tunnel into the water here and everything too. Those lines you can see right here. This is still the same increment decrement line coming in right here, and it just goes into the counter system here. Did you ever find yourself running out of space for redstone systems? No, we talked about that a little bit. I really ran out of space. I don't think I ever ran out of space. And the way you avoid that is honestly just planning. All right, that's Clank, with much abbreviations and things like that. Oh, as I was saying, there were a couple places where I needed to know whether or not you were at max Clank. For instance, when to start revealing the evokers at max Clank, right? And that's done right here. That comparator is reading how many snowballs were in there. In other words, what level of Clank we're at. When this turns off, that means there's no snowballs left. That means you're at max. That means you're at max Clank, and then I can use that to just like invert some torches and stuff like that. So, for instance, when Clank is generated, which is this line right here, and you're already at max Clank, that's when it goes out this light gray line here, and that goes out on the bus line that says, hey, signal all evoker hiding spots and give them I think a 1/3 chance of them to reveal themselves. And they work the same way like hazard works and stuff like that. Okay, hazard is, there's a lot of complicated redstone here, but in a nutshell, we've got popper clock here that determines the rate at which hazard events are generated. I believe it's like every 30 seconds. I might have tweaked it, plus or 5 minus seconds. I'm not sure at this point. How many snowballs are released each clank generated? I think I want to say 4, because I think it's about 20 clank for maximum. And there's about 80 there, so yeah, I think it's 4. And that's just got to do with how long the pulse is active, how long the torch turns off, how long the hopper that pulls the snowballs out stays active. Okay, I think I'm gonna gloss over most of hazard, except what its inputs and outputs are. There's a couple of inputs here. This first input here is the hopper clock that determines the rate at which hazard is generated. Again, it's just kicking items from here over to here. If an item goes from here to here, that means that's one hazard that is queued up that is about to be processed. This mushroom line is for cards that manually add hazard as well, so it kind of merges into the same system and does the exact same thing. Generally a lot of confusing stuff over here that does just, you know, throttles the hazard generation rate and stuff like that. Hazard block, very similar right here. By kicking an item from this into this hopper here, when it does, the comparator turns on and pushes this target block over. And we're kind of doing something a little bit kind of cool here by what's the term, like cutting the wire essentially. So you can see when there's no hazard block, this wire here is cut, and then when there is hazard block, this target block extends, and then this wire will then connect down to this wire, which goes out to a separate event. So this is another way we switch, kind of like we do with Clank block. We switch whether we are blocking the hazard or whether we are generating a hazard event. When the hazard event generates, for instance, right here, this is a global 1/3, and like meaning every time hazard is generated, only 1/3 of that hazard actually does anything. So if you compound this with the 1 in 7 chance I showed at every hazard node, we'll call it, there's actually a 1 in 21 chance that a hazard door is actually going to close every 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds, every possible hazard door in the dungeon has a 1/3 chance of being notified. If they're notified, they individually have a 1 in 7 chance of closing their door. So I misspoke before. It's actually like a 1 in 21 chance. So if I wanted to, this gives me kind of like 2 dials. If I wanted to make all hazard go down, I could just do this, right? And now all hazard has a 25% chance of generating instead of 33% chance. Conversely, if there was a certain location where I wanted hazard to generate more, I could go to that location and add and take an item out of that hopper or something like that. That's a lot of death. Okay. Hazard. Treasure drops in 2 ways. There's automatic treasure, which is what this hopper clock here is doing. I believe it's at 40. Yeah, I'm not even sure what that is, because I think it's every time. Yeah, it looks like we're getting it every time 40. So what is it? That's pretty low, actually. Wow. Passive generation is way up higher than I thought. Okay, I think that's going to be like every 18 seconds or 16 seconds or something like that. I'm not sure. But anyways, every time this block toggles, we get, while the block is transitioning, this wire turns off for 1 tick, and the observer catches that, and then sends it into this guy right here. So just like hazard, for treasure, there is a 1 in 4 chance that a treasure event will even happen. In other words, 75% of the treasure that is generated just does nothing. And that's for balance purposes. So you only have a 25% chance of your treasure actually happening, and then it gets back into the floor selector over there, which we'll talk about in a second. Is this the redstone stream? Yes. You can tell because you're probably just like glazing over at this point. No. How long did it take Mrs. T to explain all the redstone to you in the stream? A long time. Yeah, we were up late last night. Mrs. T was like, "Listen, just do your best to not embarrass yourself." She did all the redstone, and I'm just sitting here trying to like explain what she did. It's so hard. Were there any cards you gave up on because of redstone? No. There were some that were hard. Deep Frost was probably the hardest. But I don't think there were any that I gave up on. So Treasure Hunter actually gives one treasure or what? No, it's actually, I mean, I just explained that. So every time treasure is generated, let's see, we'll go over here. So the yellow line is to queue up. You can see how old the system is. I didn't call it treasure, I call it coins. This because this was designed before keys and things were part of the system, and I just called them coins then. And only then did I start calling them treasure. But anyway, when a card says like Treasure Hunter, right, +4 treasure, it's going to signal this line 4 times, pick 4 items from here over to here. Again, there's just a long clock. You guys, when when the treasure goes up, but then it takes a long time to count down, that's intentional. And that's what this long clock here is doing. This is pacing the treasure to be released into the dungeon. Every time it does, the piston extends and hits the same line here, that same green line that the auto treasure line is doing. So anything that comes on this line, whether it's from the auto treasure or from a card, will trigger this line here and hit the 25% chance of actually generating treasure. Frost Embers, pretty much the same way. Again, there is also map updates. You'll see when treasure is queued here, not only just like the Clank, not only is it powering this block here, but there's an observer here that is going up here. This is going to the map system here saying increment treasure. And then when treasure is actually released, this guy right here, I had to find it. This guy gets pushed up and goes, and that's the decrement line. But you'll see they're already stacking. Like that's the plus treasure line. That's the negative treasure line. And again, they're just following that same vertical path all the way through. All right, let's get to the floor selector, which is a lot of people have questions about. The treasure drop on all levels is a game no level. We're just about to do that, Maple. When I originally made the game, it did not know what floor the player was on. And I was like, we'll just drop it everywhere. I'll just refill the droppers. Toward the end, I added this system here, which is it knows what floor the player is on, so it only drops treasure on that floor. I'm very, very, very glad I did that. Otherwise, I would have been filling droppers 4 times as much as I am, and it would have been even more of a nightmare. Did you use any chunk loaders? No. I really don't like chunk loaders. Toward the end of the design, yeah, sorry, whatever I said there. Redstone on stone, how embarrassing. I know, right? I tried to put all my redstone on blocks, but let's just face it, toward the end of the project, I was like, whatever. All right, so before we get into this right here, you see these 2 pistons here? These are both hooked up to, or were hooked up to this line right here. And if you remember, this is the max Clank line. If you guys remember, I previously had it where at max Clank, treasure and frost embers stopped dropping, and then just recently I came in and I snipped this little line here so that didn't happen. But the way that worked is both of these pistons would extend, and when they extended, obviously the signal coming out of these randomizers would just go nowhere because there was no block to power through. It was a simple way for me to turn off all treasure and all frost embers when they hit max Clank. But again, to be clear, because that's snipped right there, that never happens anymore. Okay. Why don't you like chunk loaders? I feel like they're a crutch. They shouldn't be necessary. I don't know. I think if everyone started using chunk loaders and you had 50 chunk loaders on the server, they have a massive performance hit. They're not necessary. I kind of agree, Noises, yeah. I mean, that's a little bit of an overstatement, but it's a crush. You can solve things with chunk loaders, but I don't think you ever need them. And if you do, you really should be rethinking what you're doing, because you're doing something that you probably shouldn't be doing. Okay, so this is my solution for the floor indicator. I won't go over everything, but I'll show you generally how it works. Okay, we have an item. There's a single item that gets tracked through this. Okay, right now that item is When the game is off, it's in that dropper right there, okay? You'll notice that dropper points up into this hopper line, into that barrel, down into this hopper, and then there's just a hopper line that goes back. So it's just a simple loop that that item tracks. It's in one of those spots, okay? When the game starts, that dropper is powered, and the item will go into this hopper here, which cannot be locked because that's a slab. So it'll immediately go into this one right here. Each one of these hoppers indicates the floor that the player is on. So it starts out there on floor 1. This hopper here, that's floor 2. That's floor 3. Floor 4, I don't care about because there's no treasure dropping on floor 4. Okay. But the interesting thing is these top ones mean they are on that floor and have not picked up their artifact yet. So they are still descending into the dungeon. Once you pick up your artifact, this bottom line turns off for a second, and whatever it's in, whether you're on floor 1, 2, 3, or 4, it will very quickly get sucked down into the bottom track down there, which correlates to the same floor, but it means you are now descending. So it kind of changes your order, your direction in the dungeon. So you're like, I'm on floor 1, I'm on floor 2, I'm on floor 3, picked up my artifact. Boop. I'm still on floor 3, but now I'm going back. Okay. And the reason and the way I can treat both of these. So like, for instance, that hopper and that hopper are both, if the item's in either of those, it means you are on floor 1. But if you're in this one, it means you're still going into the dungeon. If you're on this one, it means you're coming out of the dungeon. But I can read both of them the same way by comparator there. The end goal is I want to push these two pistons down. If it's in that hopper, meaning they're descending, it'll power this block and only that dust. I'm pointing at the screen like you guys can see me. It'll power that block right there and only that dust. So both these two pistons will drop down. If you're still descending the dungeon, this comparator will power just that one dust and still push those guys down. So the idea is you can see these 3 pistons here on either side, 6, I should say. These 3 guys here relate to the floor you're on. So when you're on floor 1, this piston will extend. When you go to floor 2, that will go up and the next piston will extend. The treasure lines that come in now after you've passed this global chance here doesn't care what floor you're on. It just tries to blast it to all the floors, but only one of these pistons is down. So only one of the signals will continue. For instance, if this block is down, it'll go down there. That leads to floor 1. If the middle one is down, it goes there. That leads to floor 2. And this one here goes out the back and goes to floor 3. And the same thing for frost embers as well, too. So there's 2 main things coming in here. There's this line here, which is I opened a stairway going up or down. And there's this line coming in here and coming up the back, which is I picked up my artifact. And again, the artifact line allows the items to drop down to go into the ascending track, the return track, which means they're ascending back up to the dungeon. And the stair line is what allows each hopper just to increment and push it along to the next one. Does that make sense? Probably not. The system feels so over-engineered. It maybe is, Zing, yeah. There's probably a better way to do it, but it needs to be able to, I need to know the difference of whether you're going down into the dungeon, I need to know when you get your artifact, and I need to know how you're coming back out. So it's got to be like a reversible progress thing, like a 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. There's probably a better way to do this. Clear as mud, yeah. And one of the things I fixed today was, let's fly down to the back of, was this right here. Previously, I had a skulk sensor and a shrieker here, and I was listening to them climbing the vine here. I've changed that now, and I put a string. I didn't want to do this event originally, but there's a string with an observer now so that when they come up, it'll hit that. And that now does 2 things. One, it signals down here that goes to the audio processor. That's what changes the drone that you're hearing, because there's custom drone sounds on level 4. That's what kicks it back to the standard one for level 3. But it also, I've added all this nonsense here just this morning. Up here, all the way over here. And this is the stairway open line. Now, again, when we're talking stairways here, we're talking bomb drop. So when you drop the bomb here, it sends a 4-tick signal down the stairway open line, which means it's a descending open, where this line here is only a 1 tick line, which means it is an ascending staircase open, if that makes sense. Probably not. Yeah, so the bomb drop is just like opening a staircase. What if you trip the tripwire before entering level 4? Yeah, well, that's why I didn't want to do it that way. Someone could walk over to that and cause problems. But the problems I had originally were if someone was shifting, climbing the vine, it didn't trigger the skulk sensor, which was much more likely to happen. So I was just weighing the pros and cons of each, and I decided the string is more of a guaranteed way when they're coming up to trigger that, as opposed to the skulk sensor, which could fail a lot because people are trained in their brain to be holding shift all the time. Is that encoded? It's a very simple encoding of just signal length. Yeah. Bats. What about bats? Bats wouldn't have triggered the other one because it was monitoring the shrieker, and the shrieker would only trigger from player input. Bats can't trigger a shrieker input. Oh, the string. Yeah. Yeah, bats may trigger the string. Yeah, good point. So I didn't think of that. So that'll probably be a problem. Read Pearl's chat note. Even unshifting with the vine still broke it. So, well, it wasn't broken. It just wasn't incomplete. There was nothing there. There was no signal from that staircase to the floor indicator. I just totally forgot to put it in there. So I guess you could say that's broken. It was incomplete. Anyways, that's the floor detector, if that makes sense. If you have any questions about this, about like any questions that say like, how do you know what player the floor is how do you know what floor the player is on? This is the answer right here. Crystal clear, right? Crystal clear. Couldn't the string be moved to where the players change from vines to bubbles? Maybe. I had a hard time finding a place to put a string that the player would be guaranteed to hit but still hold the water back. What happens if you pick up your artifact and then descend further? Don't do that. Yeah. That was a design choice of players could do it, but there's no realistic case where they should do it. And it only happened in kind of gimmicky cases at the end of the game. I wasn't listening. Can you start over? Yeah. Watch the VOD. Yeah, exactly, Pearl. But you didn't do that anywhere during the normal time. I don't think you would have done that. Did you? I assume you only did that, Pearl, after the game was over. Regardless, though, I kind of just made the decision of like, hey, players aren't going to go to a harder floor if their artifact isn't down there for no reason. I didn't think it was something that was realistic. If they did do that, then there was probably something else that needed to be fixed in the design to discourage them from doing that. Okay. What was the design process like for the card processors? Did you sketch out an abstract version of them, or did you go straight to Redstone? I did sketch out an abstract version. I prototyped a couple of the card processors to start to get a feel of how much space I needed, and that's where I came up with the 4x6. One of the things I spent a lot of time on, though, is looking at common synergies between cards and trying to align them in the card processor adjacent to each other. For instance, Quickstep and Brilliance are, I think, both vertically in the card processor because they both need access to the same functionality, which is Q1 recycle, or Q a recycled card. If I put those in different places, it would have been, if I didn't plan and put cards with similar systems together, there would have been 10 times more redstone spaghetti back there. So it was like, all right, if you're someone that needs to add sprint, right? There's a lot of cards that add sprint. I put those all at the end of the card processor and clustered them all together in the card processor so they could all just kind of funnel into the same system without having wires going everywhere and stuff. I think that really helped a lot. How's the map going to work in the world download? Tango Cam will not be there. Yeah. I don't have a solution for you. It's either going to be open to LAN and add another account, or put it on a, you're going to have to, or you're going to have to get Carpet Mod to do it for you. There's a lot of ways to do it. I unfortunately can't solve that for you. I would recommend Carpet Mod probably. or just set your chunk distance to be, well, no, it's not about render distance. You physically need someone standing on the map, in the map chunks, to update it, and they have to be holding a map. How have you avoided problems with unloading and loading chunks with redstone? Generally, everything stays. Part of the planning process was to make sure that everything was going to be within chunk load distance. I planned out where all the levels were going to be all the way down to level 4 before I started even digging. There was one case, as we talked about, I think in the previous stream or something, where there was some redstone wire. If you were at the beginning of level 2, some of the wiring that goes to the map was outside of loaded chunk distance. But that, other than that, it was a pretty clear and conscious thing to make sure everything stayed within chunk load distance. Did you ever think of giving up, or have you ever given up on a feature after redstone did not want to work like you wanted? I never thought of giving up. No, I was having too much fun making it, honestly, and the support from you guys on the streams and everything was so good. So I never thought of giving up on the project. I did hate myself while I was doing the map because it turned out to be way more work than I anticipated. It was like, the map was a cool idea, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. We'll have a dynamic user interface built out of a map system. And I just wanted to do it because it was a cool idea, but it turned out to just be like the worst. It turned out to be a lot of work. Why is it always redstone spaghetti and never redstone linguine? I mean, you know, taste the flavor. As you desire. What redstone took the longest time to figure out how to do and why? Second iteration of the card processor, probably. That's the most confusing for me. Which we'll get to probably now. When designing the redstone, what pushed you away from centralized loot distribution network? Like the water streams in the ceiling, and toward, I gotta scroll towards the current loot nodes. The original idea was I wanted to have a loot distribution system that did not have specific locations. I was gonna have loot just going in a water track and randomly pulse like trapdoors in the track. That would just allow the treasure to drop out, so virtually making it happen anywhere. I went away from that just because of the work. I think we talked about this a little bit, but it was just the amount of work to do that and the scariness of having water tracks everywhere. I would have had to, you know, inevitably had to have the items go up and down to get around map design, and then like put in like temporary bubble. It just would have got really, really clunky and space inefficient. Where just having individual droppers and pulsing those nodes was way simpler. Item stacking, there would have been all kinds of concerns, we'll say, which is why I dropped it. Do you think Dota 2 could be played without armor stands, visual and sound mods? I don't think Dota 2 could be played without the sound mod, because I mean, you could, but you would have no idea what cards are playing, so that would take a lot of the fun. You would still have the fun of building a deck, but you just wouldn't have that satisfaction of hearing the cards called out, and some of the cards would be utterly useless, like Reckless Charge and things like that, because you just wouldn't hear them. So yeah, I would not recommend trying to play it without the sound mod. What was the one bug you're still scratching your head about? There's still a bug in the coin crown converter that I haven't tracked down, that I would like to fix, that won't get fixed. What is the most redesigned system over the course of the game? The card shuffler. The card shuffler, 100%. I went through like 4 iterations on that thing. What's one bug you're still scratching your head about? That got added twice. Wait, were your thoughts to have hazard be revertible? No. You're talking about like just game design wise, like allowing the player to do something to reopen a door? I didn't want to do that, because I thought whatever that case would have been too abusable, because hazard is generally not a problem until you get to the one place where it is a problem. And if you had that like one token of revert hazard door, it would have negated the cost of the threat of the whole system, I think. So I didn't want to have hazard be revertible, if that's what you're asking. I think, I don't know. Jump boost is anti-hazard block in a lot of cases. Yeah. Was the bus line design the improvement you had hoped for? In hindsight, was there any better design? I think I could have compacted the bus design a little bit better. especially once I learned how to do rails better. You know, the lines could have been adjacent. In other words, it could have been 4 adjacent with only a 1 block or 2 block gap between them vertically or something like that. But overall, that's a minor point. So the bus system took up a little bit more space, but doesn't bother me. I'm really happy with it, and I would definitely do it again. Have you ever found the source of the random 2? No, but I haven't really cared. I think it's one of the randomizers for what do you call it? Audio or something like that. I think it hasn't bothered me enough to. What's up with the saplings near Clank? I think you explained once, but I forgot. Oh yeah, I can explain that again. I've explained this one a bunch, so if you've been around the streams, you've seen this, so bear with me. Let's see here. How do I get out of here? Saplings are used as a randomizer here. Saplings, when they try to grow, still generate a block update event that the observer can watch. And as long as you make it so that the tree can't actually grow by putting a block above it, what you get is a very simple randomizer. You got to have adequate lighting on it too. If it doesn't have the light, it won't attempt to grow. So that's why all these will have a torch next to it. But you get a very slow, like 5-minute. I don't remember what the update is, but it's a long random timer. And I'm using that to randomize which that 1-tick pulse toggles a wool block that blocks kind of line of sight between the shrieker and the skulk sensor, which essentially disables that Clank node. So that's how I had some nodes be active and some be deactivated every run, so you wouldn't know which ones were going to be on. Are the wool blocks missing? Yes, I went back and pulled out a lot of them because this was my way of like, I want to make more Clank be active. So in cases I left the system in place and I just broke the wool block. So this is one of them here. Why the sapling over the redstone or armor stand for Clank? Why the sapling over the redstone or armor stand for Clank? There's no armor stand here. Are we conflating the two systems? There's this one that's sapling randomizer, and then there's the armor stand on the redstone ore one, which is a different randomizer. Oh, just different. The armor stand on the redstone ore is a quicker clock. You're going to get that down to like, I think 50 seconds, I think on average, where the sapling is going to be a much slower clock randomizer. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Nate. Yeah, the redstone ore one is way quicker. So it's good for, in my opinion, is good for like ambient sound effects and stuff like that, but not for things that you want really slowly randomized. Can triggers be activated and deactivated during an active run? Yes. What's the most important lesson you learned from making Decked Out 2 that you're going to do in Decked Out 3? Probably not redstone based, probably more game design, which is outside the scope of this stream. But the short answer is be more aware of the path the players, the choices the player will make based on efficiency. And do a little bit more work for maintenance. Yeah, make maintenance easier. What bugs do you think people will solve when the world download's available? All of them. Once the world download, I am going to be inundated with redstone tweets the day after the world download is available, with everybody telling me, at this block you missed this dust, or this dust was clipping, and these Clank generators were never doing anything, or treasure was never coming out of here the entire game, because there's going to be just things that are just, yep, they were broken, and that's okay. That's okay. And that's a perfect time for me to take a vacation. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Goodbye. Enjoy. Okay, so yeah, that's the Clank randomizers. I'm glad we talked about that. These are the loot. You'll see this combo everywhere. These are the treasure and frost ember ones. Again, pretty straightforward. A randomized dropper hopper here that if it gets the shovel or the sword or whatever item I put in there, you get a signal length 3, hits the repeater, powers the block, which spits out a you know, something that's in the treasure there. Like one of these guys, right? So that's kind of a typical distribution for a level 2 treasure box right there. But then it also hits the tutificator. Oh, that's a mistake because I got the hopper there. The tutificator isn't working. See? The hopper is there as a simple way for me to have extra backlog of loot. But when I put it over that, it actually stops the sound from happening. So that was a problem. Tango not reading either, chat. I'm reading chat as much as I can. I got a lot of stuff I got to look at. What? I got a shortcut. You might want to fix. Probably, but the game's over. I am curious where it is, Etho. What other themes were you considering for Deck 2, or are you always dead set on the ice? No, I think I wanted to do Frost from the beginning. Frosty Ice. And again, that's only for the Citadel and level 1. After that, it gets into other craziness, you know. Do you plan to have an easier system for spectating hermits? Yeah, that was something I would have liked to have done, Domino. Is be more aware of how I will watch the game. That wasn't planned for at all. In retrospect, it became super tedious, and everyone was telling me how to you know, oh, put in an ender porter and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, and I just never got to it. But you're right. Some way of transitioning between maintenance mode, viewing mode, and then becoming social back up on the top. That back and forth was really tedious. Why is there a Skizz head? Right, because he's the rare mob that I got to kill. Okay, let's talk about you want to do the card processor, card unloader, all that. As I fall to the ground. Okay, how do I get out of here? How would copper bulbs affect the redstone of Deck 2? I mean, I honestly haven't even touched the copper bulbs yet, so I know nothing about them except their built-in RS NOR latches, I think. So any place I use that, I'll use one of those. Let's see. Can ificators also be used to skedoodle the deificators? Absolutely. If you de-skedoodle correctly. What's the most satisfying system to design yourself? The shop, I think. I really enjoyed designing the shop system. How much time did you use to plan the redstone systems and their allocated locations before starting to build? Probably a couple days of like, what systems am I going to need? Where are they in relative to the levels? Where are the systems relative to the systems? What systems are going to need to talk to each other? How are they going to do that? All that stuff was before I even started digging the hole. So that I could avoid that huge regret of like, whoops, that level should have been over there on that side, you know, which I think turned out okay. What are the different things that can be changed globally, and what, if anything, you wish could have been controlled globally? I mean, I can change like a lot of things globally real fast. Clank generation, hazard generation, treasure drops, frost ember drops, pretty much anything that I would want to be able to change, I could change quickly, I think. I can't change what cards are drawn, but I don't want to. I said RS instead of T flip-flop, yeah, because I don't know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm not a real redstoner. Yeah, I don't know. I think I had the dials on the places where I wanted to have the dials for the most part. How did you fix the lava thingy getting stuck? What? What lava thingy getting stuck? I don't know what that means. I assume they're collecting heads, yeah. Okay. Lava blade trap. Oh, the, what do you call it? On level 4, the lava wave is what I call it. Sorry, yeah. instead of it suffered from a one tick issue as well, where if two systems try to one tick it at the same time, it gets out of sync. I solved that by, we did it on stream. I solved that by instead pushing an item into a hopper, which guaranteed that a comparator read that hopper, and it was going to be, what is it, 4 ticks before the item would leave the hopper. So I got a guaranteed on off regardless of how they were pulsed, if that makes sense. Probably not. Felix, thank you for the piece of pie. Thought for the future with lowering the card limit, but allowing ethereals to go beyond this limit, make them more desirable. Possibly, yeah. Yeah. So in retrospect, I could have had like an ethereal counter before the card counter, that every time one of those pre-ethereal cards came in from unloading the deck, it could have raised the counter by 1 or something like that. Or just done, there's a lot of ways to solve that, but maybe, yeah. Okay, where's the game? Over here. The general flow of from here down to here. This is all card processing, deck unloading, shuffling, all this stuff. The general flow at a very high level is the deck comes in here, drops in here, gets spit out right there on top of that hopper, starts unloading the cards. Okay, right here is the card counter that's making sure you have 40 cards or less than 40 cards. And then it starts going down this hopper line here, which the first step is to go through the permanent processor. So before the cards are put into the shuffler, because permanent cards aren't put into the shuffler, I have to process all of them first. So you can see I've got like the names here of all of the permanent cards and their correlating card processor. So it's the same kind of multi-tray system as over there, just a little bit smaller one. There's still 4 trays with 4 cross. So I have room for 16 permanents in the system, which is way more than I needed. So basically, how does this work? You got a standard sorter here, which when it gets to the signal length here, it pops the item from here into this hopper here, which is locked when the game is on, but that turns on the comparator here, which pushes the piston down. We have alternating slime and honey blocks here so they don't stick. But essentially when the card becomes active, the block, the vertical column here of either slime or honey will be pushed down, and it will stay down for the entire game. So that's how I know when a permanent card is in place, is when the, like, for instance, this is Speedrunner, right? When Speedrunner is active, this block lowers and just simply powers this line here, which takes the long trek to dropping the frost embers at the entrance to level 3. Some of these are incomplete. Like that's a legendary card that never happened. What's another easier one? Like Pork Chop Power, right? Here's another one, right? When that gets pushed down, all this does is go down to here, goes down this incredibly long line here, up this incredible torch tower here, into this room. This is the room above the entryway right here. But this is where you get your map, and it's also where you get your 2 pork chops. So this line here is the pork chop power line that stays on for the duration of the game. So we put this little like limiter here that powers this repeater. This is how we turn the permanent line on into just a 2-tick pulse, because the repeater has a line on and then a line off, and the observer catches both of those and spits out 2 pork chops to the player. This is also where your suit up, this is the stockpile for suit up here where the armor is and stuff. So the same exact way the suit up card sends a line up here and just triggers both of those. In retrospect, it was very tedious for the permanent cards to send a signal up to that room. That could have been planned better. Are you going to restock armor? We'll see. That'll probably be part of the world download stream. I don't know how much of it I'll get to. So anyways, that's the cards come in here and go through the permanent processor. If they get through that, that means they're not a permanent card. It means it's got to go into the card shuffler, which is all of this right now. This is the latest iteration on the card shuffler. I'm trying to remember how this works. We're using a boat here. So this is the line here. The items will get pushed into the boat, and then let's see. That hopper there is locked. That's the one to empty the cards when the game is off. And the items will go down through these chests, into this dropper. And there's a clock there that will spit the items down one at a time really fast, like tick, 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 tick. And then they will just go down the water stream and go back into the deck of cards to be rebuilt. When a card is drawn, there's basically like 45 mine carts there, which isn't great for lag, but it's great for solving this system here. There's about 45 mine carts there, a little bit more than the max amount of cards to accommodate for like little surges and stumble cards in your deck and stuff. When I want to draw a card, that torch simply turns off, and there's an activator rail there that when that turns off, the hopper minecart is active for real quick, and we'll pull in an item, I want to say this correctly. All of the, how does it work? All of the hoppers are going to, oh. I forget how it works. Because what seems like is going to happen is all of the hopper minecarts are going to pull one item out of the chest. Oh, it pulls all the items out of the chest. That's right, it does. It pulls all the items out of the chest, and then the randomization. Sorry, I had to remember how it works. The randomization is in actually the hopper. When a hopper has multiple hopper minecarts above it, it's actually coded to just choose one of them randomly. So it samples one of the minecarts. Each of the hopper minecarts will have one card in it, so it samples one of the hopper minecarts to pull the item from. And when it does, that's the card that's played. And when it's done, those items get sent back up this little elevator and get pushed back up into the chest again. So it's like it pulls the entire deck down, grabs one of them, and then says, "Okay, whatever's left, throw it back up." And the whole deck gets reshuffled back up into the boat. I forget. It's complicated, but it's really cool actually. More stuff here, more stuff here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff everywhere here. Like this is the multi-tiered card scheduler, which was originally built to handle the haste concept, which we cut, so it's overcomplicated at this point. But essentially, this is the system that paces when a card is drawn. I say multi-tiered because there's really two clocks here. There's the first hopper clock is like a 30-second clock, which is basically just saying every time that's done, it's saying, hey, schedule a card to be drawn. This system over here is another hopper clock, but it's on like a 10-second one or like an 18-second one. Whatever this is like, this is how fast we can process cards. The reason they're separated is because I wanted to be able to handle cards being queued from random draw, but also quick draw, the way it usually was, would say automatically draw a new card. That would automatically shove another one into the scheduler, but it would still pace them out here. Blah, 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 blah. I know. How many people we got? Yeah, we got 3,600 people. That's about what that's what I expected. Yeah. Normally we got about 6,000 or so, but people today are just like, Hey, I promise this stream. There's a certain amount of people that ask for it.
Are they enjoying it?
I don't know. I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job of explaining things. If I went over every detail, this would be a 9-hour stream. So like, I'm having to smoke and mirrors over all of this right now, which, I could talk about this for probably 5 minutes, but I'm not going to.
So it's magical.
Oh no.
Like Santa? Is that what you're saying?
Like Santa who landed upside down on my head? Yeah. Yay! Happy holidays! Anyways, that's the card scheduler. Overcomplicated at this point because we don't have the concept of quick draw anymore and stuff like that. Quick draw. And haste. So the other reason this is complicated too is because we had support for haste, which again, another system that was stupid and should have never been added, but it was the idea that cards could be drawn quicker. That was done by pulling items out of the hopper clock to obviously speed it up. But then when we were done, there was a little elevator to push them all back in and reset that system. So you could essentially, change your card draw system for 30 seconds down to 20 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever if you had a lot of haste cards. I'm a fan of hats, but that hat is disturbing. I mean, it's fine, right? Okay. The actual card processor, when a card is ejected, it comes out of that dropper right there. It comes down here and goes down this water line, which is there's like 50 card processors. Each one of these represents a potential card that we could have in the game. There's like a third of them aren't even used.
Could you put fish in that water line?
I could. I mean, they would die when they hit the pressure plate. They would flop around.
Why would they flop onto the pressure plate? Why wouldn't they stay in
because
the
water would push them onto the pressure plate, I think.
Put a fish in. Right.
I can't. I don't have cheat codes.
Why don't you just have a fish in your
I
pocket?
don't have a fishificator. I didn't.
You don't just have a fish in your pocket?
I don't carry fish buckets around with me. No. Yeah. Sorry. Try it. Try it. I mean, we could probably go get a fish where Willie is, but I'm pretty sure oh yeah, Joe's got a fishificator. Do you want me to see that? I'll do it for you.
All right.
Okay.
I gotta go.
Okay. You can go ahead and close that door to stop the barking.
Well, closing the door doesn't stop the bark.
As far as I'm concerned, it does. She's still sick. Okay. To the card processor. Let's see. Couple things of note. Where is it? Right. Doggo interested in redstone. Yeah. Couple things of note is we have there's a couple of, well, there's only one now. There used to be two. This hopper here is for essentially eerie silence. It says your next card will be skipped. It unlocks this hopper right here. So when eerie silence plays, after it's played, this hopper is unlocked. So the next card comes down, just goes boop, goes into this guy, and gets spit down the water track system, the output water track system, without ever being played. I still to this day think eerie silence would have been way better if I could somehow still call out the card, but then, like we do for recycle, play a sound that was like murmur or something, meaning like, here's the card that would have been played but didn't get played. I think people would have not been so excited about eerie silence if they knew what cards were being thrown away every game, but we'll see. Maybe next time. After that, we have a pressure plate here, which is both to hold the water stream back, but it's also to let me know that a card was played, because it would make it better because I could card count. Oh yeah, you'd be able to know how many are left, Etho. Yeah, good point. Etho in Vegas would be terrifying. Whenever a card is played, there's this line here, which is picked up in a couple of places. I think there's a couple of cards that need to know when a card is played, Beast Sense being one of them, because Beast Sense says for the next 2 cards played, make all beasts glow. That's how we do that. And I think there's another one here. I think Chill Step, or I don't know, one of the other cards needs to know when a card is played too. So that's how we do that. Other than that, we got standard sorting system here that you'll notice has an interesting kind of backside here where this piston is extended. That piston is hooked up to this dropper hopper combo. This is what allows me to throttle how many of each card can be played. So for instance, when a card is played, it gets pushed from, these are common cards, so I increased this to like super high so that you could just have more commons, I think. I'm not sure why. Is it a common card? Yeah, that's stability. I forgot why. But anyway. Oh, for recycle, I had to come by here and yeah, that's right. Recycle made this whole system garbage. Yeah, I had to go back in. You're right, guys. You're right. I forgot. So anyways, before recycle, the idea was like there would be 5 items in here. That's what those 5 stone were, to say that you can only play the card 5 times. Every time the card was played, it was pushed over into the hopper. The hopper was locked because of that line there. But this comparator here was pushing that block down. So once you played your 5th card, that dropper was empty, which would raise this piston here, which would essentially say, hey, when that card's played, it's still going to get ejected, but it's not going to get to here, which is the magic part, which is the card processor. So that signal goes through the block when the piston's extended, turns off the torch, which lifts, again, a series of honey slime block combo things here, which lifts one of them. So for instance, when Ember Seeker is played, that guy lifts up and powers this line right here and does all the stuff. This gets into all the nasty linguini, we'll call it, of card logic to bus line event processors. How does Beast Sense make all the Ravagers glow? That's a commonly asked question. I'm guessing it's asked by Bedrock players because this isn't in Bedrock, I don't think. In Java, when you ring a bell, I will demonstrate. In Java, when you ring a bell, it makes everybody glow. That's just a standard vanilla feature. So I don't think that effect exists on Bedrock. But I was like, hey, that's a cool effect. Let's put it in the game. But it was useless. Yeah, it makes every illager mob. And then, yeah, this is one of the non-vanilla things here. I did put a data pack on, just to be transparent here. I did put a data pack on the server. You'll notice right now when I do this, the evokers are lighting up too. I didn't want players to be able to see the evokers because it would A, be confusing to see, and B, it would be revealing to where the evokers were and stuff like that. So there's actually a data pack on the server that very special cases, if someone's playing the game and they're within bounds of decked out and it goes to glow, it immediately takes the glow effect off of the evoker if they get glow effect and stuff like that. So it is a little non-vanilla hack, but I thought it was simple but also beneficial to the game. Beast Sense was fun in Decked Out 1. Well, that's because there was nothing else good in Decked Out 1. Okay, card processor. I think we're mostly done here. Cards get processed. Let's go down here. So we've got like, again, these droppers are where the cards come out of being processed. The barrels, in fact, I've never actually checked these. This will be interesting. This will be my way of knowing how many times an ethereal card got played. Can I see it from here? No, I'm still too low. Here we go. What is this? Nothing. What is... So basically I lined the ethereals up with these barrels, and it kind of like did two things. One, it allowed me to put a... because I need the pressure plates here to continue the water stream. And I was like, well, I'll just put the ethereals where the pressure plates are, because obviously if I put a dropper there and spit it out, it would just sit on the pressure plate and not return to their deck and stuff. So I kind of killed two birds with one stone, where I needed the pressure plate to continue the water stream. I just put a barrel and it doesn't have to. Yeah, so I don't know why we have sticks and stuff in here. This is probably from before the game launched, but so there you go. Pay to Win was played 56 times. Fun fact. Now I want to see what other ones. Moment of Clarity was played. Moment of Clarity was played like what is that, like 230 times or something like that? A lot of times. I did not expect that. I think that's the empty one, or that's the Pay to Win. Nothing. Oh wait, Pork Chop Power is a permanent, and yeah, so the other ones are permanents. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I know stats are interesting. Stats are super cool. Okay, so basically after a card is processed, it spits out one of these droppers, unless it's an ethereal and it goes in the thing, and just comes down here and goes into that hopper. This is a fun thing too. That hopper used to point straight down, and just recently, like 2 weeks ago, I changed it to go over to this barrel, into that hopper, and sideways. The player's deck of cards, the shulker box that's being refilled, is sitting right here, okay, as the game is running. However, there were a couple cases when the shulker box didn't make it there and the cards were still trying to go in, but then with the hopper pointing straight down, the hopper filled up with only 5 different types of cards, and then the rest of the cards just sat there on top of the they sat on top of the hopper and rotted. So there was a couple times, happened to Corrales once, where the deck just got lost. By putting this simple loop in here now I'm guaranteed that I can't lose their cards. And this actually saved me a couple times because after that, the shulker box didn't appear for some reason. And there's still a bug. I don't know why, but there's still a bug where the shulker box once in a while just doesn't make it down here, based on timing of something. But at least now all their cards will be in that hopper and in that barrel and stuff like that, so I can easily pull them back out. It helped a lot. Why is Santa's legs on your head? Listen, don't ask. Santa does what Santa does. Yeah, exactly. I will be informed what my bugs are. Day one, yeah. How did you not die to wardens when editing levels 3 and 4, like when you had to add more pressure plates? I didn't. I killed the wardens. The wardens, I've replaced the wardens. Well, I mean, I've replaced the wardens on levels 3. I've never replaced the wardens on level 4 because they don't really take damage. I've replaced the wardens on level 3 at least 8 or 10 times or so. So it's when I replace the wardens that I do maintenance. In fact, part of the world download prep is going to be killing the wardens one more time and filling all the droppers, because I haven't done them for quite some time. So yeah, there's that. All the card processes are obviously just very specific redstone. I'm not going to go over all of them. There's a ton of them, but it's each card getting inputs from the bus line and sending outputs to the bus line is essentially all the cards do. And then sometimes we punch words to death. Yeah. Over here, this is a fun little section. These 4 guys here are the 4 beacon controllers, and they are overly complicated because when you play a card that gives you like 30 seconds of sprint, I want it to append to the time you already have. So essentially what we have here is counter systems in these droppers here that every item in these droppers correlates to like a 15-second on period that you're going to have the beacon active. So as long as you can keep queuing up more time, essentially. If you play 2 sprint cards in a row, you know, if I did this the straightforward way, I'd have 2 minutes and then 2 minutes, and they would overlap and you'd get like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But instead now you get 4 minutes due to how this works. So the basically just little clocks back here and stuff that keep the pistons that block the beacon beams. Where is it? Where are they? I can never find them. Here we go. So these, because they only have a 50 block radius, these, not those. Where are they? 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 They're somewhere around here. Somewhere around here. Well, we'll just go down to these over here. There's 4 of these. There's 4 beacons that are like this with pistons that block the beacon beam. So when you play a sprint card, for instance, just it signals the system here to retract that, turns on the beacon, which goes all the way to the surface, of course, and it has to synchronize those in 4 locations because the width of a max beacon is only 50 blocks. So that was, again, another part of the planning, right? I knew that I wanted to have beacon effects across the dungeon. I knew that the range of a beacon was 50 blocks. I knew 50 blocks wasn't wide enough, but that's why we basically went 100 blocks wide, is so that I can get 2 beacons on either side and get coverage in the middle. So there's 4, there's another one over there, and then there's more. And then there's one down below too, which is, where is it? It's sitting on top. Yeah, there it is. That one right there. That one beacon covers levels 3 and 4. All of those are synced up to have the same status effects going at all the times, regardless of where you are in the dungeon. You get the correct beacon effects. Why is there a nether tree? I don't know. Green put it there when he was building his room. How wide and long did you dig out the first area? It's funny, like if you go back and watch the first videos, right? It's basically, I'll let you guys do the math. I think it was like 80 by 120 or so. I don't know. I mean, what are we at here? 450, 1950 to, again, I'm not going to do the math, but let me get over to where the general, I think the general hole ends right about, let's see, it's a little bit confusing. It's right about here. Yeah, right here. So to that location there. I don't remember what I said. You guys can do the math. That's 620, 40. Someone will do the math. Not me. What else? What else? Let me run through some questions. 80 by 150. That sounds about right. Oh, card call out. Yeah. Whoo, card call out. Okay. This is magic. I'm gonna try to explain it. I'm gonna fail because it's magic. All right. This is the one piece of redstone that was like completely new to me. Doing decked out here, and it's super cool, and I want to use it again in the future. But it's magic. So I'm gonna try to explain it, and you're gonna be like, "What is he saying? He's making no sense." Yep. I know how it works. I just can't describe it. But basically, we've got we'll say 40 potential card processors. Okay. To send the signal down here to this guy, that's where all the 40 audio players are for all the cards. I'm saying 40, it's actually a little bit more than that, I think. But there's only one redstone line right there. This redstone line right here, up here, coming off of this. That one redstone line encodes 40 different variations of which card to call out. Because there's so many cards, I didn't want to run 40 lines down there. That would have been insane. But it's extremely cool because we are within this redstone signal. We are encoding both the signal strength and the signal length. So signal strength meaning like 0 to 15 being how strong the signal is, and then signal length meaning how long the line is active for. And essentially you subdivide, I think you get like, what is it, 7? Let me see here. I know you guys on the Patreon server are going to be cringing right now because I'm going to ruin this. So just please bear with me because I'm not going to be horrible at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in blocks of 8, I believe it is. For each block of 8 redstone signals, you then increase the length. So right here is a 1 tick lengthener. So whatever length of signal is coming in here, it adds 1 tick because of this comparator here. So essentially when this guy powers, it immediately powers that, but then 1 tick to get through this comparator. So if we had a signal length 1 coming through here, it would turn into a 2. So that's how going this way, the signal length keeps increasing every 8 block increments or so. The signal strength encoding is the part that really wraps my brain, but it's got to do with this magic right here. This is the one part I'm not going to be able to explain, but you have pairs of these, and each pair is subtracting a signal strength from 15. So if my signal strength, we'll say, is 9, you subtract it from 15, you get 6. And then you take that 6 and subtract it from 15 and you get 9 again. And you keep flip-flopping that as you're going down this line here, more or less. So that when it gets down to the bottom down here, I have both a signal strength and a signal length that I have to decode and push it into the correct audio bank. So the way I believe this works here is the signal comes down that into this guy right here. And how does this work? I think it's got to do with, right, the torch. And again, I had help with this redstone. The torch can only turn off if it's more than 2 ticks. So if this is a 1 tick pulse, the torch cannot turn off because it takes 2. A torch doesn't turn off with 1 ticks. I think that's how this works. So if it's 1 tick, it'll go here into the comparator, okay? And then it'll feed into this line, which is a signal strength decoder. So essentially we have our signal length encoders out here, which are like, is this a signal strength 1? No. Go to the next, subtract 1 and go to the next one. Is this a signal strength 1 now? No. Subtract 1, go to the next one, and keep doing that down the line. So each time it goes to, see these like little packages of squares here? Each time it's subtracting 1 from the signal length until it's a signal length 1. Then it knows it's in the right bank, and then it decodes the strength of the signal at that point. using this, which I do understand. It's the signal length stuff that makes my brain melt, but it's insanely cool how much data is packed in this line. Again, 40 different card variations packed into one line. So you're like, instead of redstone, which is just on off, if you use it in a simple way, you now have a line that you can kind of send data down, right? I'm sending messages down this redstone line, which is just super cool. Super cool. So anyways, signal length and signal strength encoding mixed together gives us the amount of permutations we need to decode all this stuff. It's really cool. That's the card processor. That's the audio call out. Let me read some questions here. Would a hopper minecart system to refill treasure and ember spots work, or would that have caused bugs? It wouldn't have caused bugs. It would have been more work than it's like. To have a hopper minecart that rides through all of the places in the dungeon to refill treasure would have been a lot of minecart tracks. And it would have made things a lot more bulky. I don't know, maybe. The other thing to keep in mind though too is there's really no place for that minecart to go, because like for instance, all of the droppers are pushed right into the floor because they have to go through that block, right? I mean, I could have lowered it, I guess, if I put more solid blocks around it, but in a lot of cases, there's no place for the minecart to go unless like I said, we really lowered this dropper and made it be like an item elevator and stuff. It would have got a lot more complicated. I guess just adding more solid blocks, lowering the dropper. Yeah, I guess that would have worked. I hadn't thought it through. But the bigger issue is just sending that amount of minecarts in and around, like minecart over here, down here, up over here, over here. Oh, I gotta have it branch out over there, kick back around, come over. Like, it just would have been a nightmare setting that minecart around, I think. So, but it was a pain to restock things too. And the sound they make, well, I would have made the sound. If I was to do that, I would have only done it while the game was off, so that's not a problem. Q&A is just space the reason why there are no filters on the compass pickups. Yeah, in retrospect, that's a regret. I would have, next time I do this, I will put filters on the compass pickups. It was twofold. One, lazy, because there's 80 lodestone compass drops in the game, and I didn't want to. Adding the filter on it complicates it, not a lot, but enough where it would have been more tedious. And then two, space. A lot of those times it starts to get pretty tight with the redstone. That's generally the only time I really care about space is in those little nodes of treasure droppers and lodestone things and stuff like that. But I do think the sorter was probably necessary. I don't know. Are those really necessary though? That's debatable. That's debatable, right? Like, the game did not fail because I didn't have sorters on them, but there was definitely a good handful of times when someone threw an accidental item in there, or more importantly, the wardens are killing slimes and the slime balls are going in the thing, and now, all that stuff could have been fixed. But level 3 was the one that needed them, yeah, from the wardens killing the slime. If you do the map again, do you think you put it above the area so the player loads the map themselves? I think if I do decked out again, it won't be underground. There's no reason to make this game underground. The only reason to make it underground, right, is because I wanted the idea of the dungeon was below Deep Frost Citadel. If I'm not making my base around the game, and I'm not trying to make this whole like underground dungeon thing, there's no reason to make it underground. Just make a big box and put it up in the sky somewhere, and put a box around it, sure, but that would be way, 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 way easier to get around and fly around the perimeter and stuff like that. It would be insanely easier. So the next time I'm just going to put it up in the sky somewhere. Decked out 3 confirmed? Question mark. I've said in multiple streams, yes, I will probably do Decked Out. I mean, Decked Out 2 was such a massive success. I'd be stupid not to do another one. I just can't promise what year it will be. I can almost promise you it. In fact, I can promise you it won't be 2024. But someday. You spent a lot future-proofing the dungeon, like putting important systems centrally without enough space. Was there anything... Gotta widen the thing again. Was there anything you didn't future-proof, but turned out you should have? Restocking. I mean, we were just talking about it. Restocking, my soul dies a little bit every time I have to restock because it's such a pain. 90% of the treasure dropped in the dungeon is never even seen. It's just pooped out and it rots 5 minutes later. So I think it would, I would have put a little bit more thought into restocking. I didn't think the game would be run 2,000 times was the main problem. Stupid hermits are like, hey, this game's fun, let's play it, right? I thought the game would have been run maybe 500 or 600 times, and I was like, okay, we'll restock once or twice, no big deal, I don't care. So you know, I vastly underrated. Cool, I'm gonna use that word. I vastly underrated how much the game would be played, and therefore how many times I'd have to restock. So yeah, restocking. I didn't think restocking was gonna be a big deal. Turns out it was. Are there any redstone traps that didn't make it? If so, which one's the biggest missed opportunity? Yeah, I mean, there's the arrows that we've all talked about, right? I can show you the arrow trap that is in the game but not active. All these are full with arrows, and there's these dispensers in the walls here, and very Indiana Jones style. There's a skulk sensor that all these lift up, and you have 8 dispensers cross-firing arrows at you, like. It's super cool, but I didn't turn it on because I thought it would be tedious. And then there was a really cool powdered snow trap with shifting floors that I really wanted to get in. If I had to do level 1 over, I would have put it in there in a couple places, but it didn't get used. I showed it off in my, if you really want to see that powdered snow floor trap, look in the VOD for, you know, decked out what we left out, I think is the title of it. Question. What is something redstone planning related that you learned while building that you use in every game? Yeah, I mean, I answered that. I think the signal length and run length and signal strength encoding. Did you level design first and add the redstone around it? Yes. So I have, I mean, you guys have all seen the maps now, right? Someone hit the command for the maps that Ori did. They're amazing. I have maps that, like, when I started, all I would do is figure out the bounds of my area. Like you guys said, it was like 180 by 80 by 150. I just went into Photoshop and made an 80 by 150 image, and every pixel was a block, and I just started drawing on it and erasing with different colors in Photoshop, and that was how I did my map design. Very simple, you know. I added layers when something crossed over and there was verticality. I would add, you know, different layers to it. But then those are also the same maps. I started putting locators on them for where all the treasure drops are and stuff like that. It just became very, very helpful. But yeah, a lot of work in Photoshop. Do I have those images? Hang on. I'll show you some. I'll just take some screenshots or something and paste them to you. I'm not going to do the whole Photoshop screen share thing. Let's see. Yeah, so the maps Ori did are way better than, so like, here's a good one. Yeah. So every different system I put on different layers, like, treasure and berries and evokers and clank triggers. All of those things were a different Photoshop layer, so that once I had the map down, I could then just turn on the layers to see where the different systems were I wanted to. Like if I had to refill treasure, I would just turn on the treasure layer and see where they all were. So like here, I'll show you. Like this is a map of the Caves of Carnage, and you'll see a bunch of numbers. One second. So that's a map of Caves of Carnage. Then Now that is Ori's map that I back filled in to use as my data set. So I didn't make that map. That's like, I originally drew it myself. I don't think I have the originals. Let me see. Don't think I have the originals. You can't see the map? Well, I put the link out. You got to click the link. I'm not putting it on screen. Too much work. Click the link. Yeah, I don't think I have my original designs. Let me see. I'm looking for one. But you can see all those numbers there on those pink dots, for instance. Those numbers correlate to the lodestone drop-offs. So I knew where they all were and stuff. And that's how I sorted them based on difficulty and what compasses are going to go where and stuff like that. Yeah, sadly, I don't have... Give me a second, because maybe I can find something. Oh. You want to see the original? This is going to be a very, very, very small image, guys. Oh, actually, I zoomed it in, so that's fine. Okay. This is the original map for level 4 as designed in Photoshop. The green lines are treasure lines telling me where the bus inputs are coming from. And that helped me a lot of times when I just had all the dots sprinkled around, like here's all my treasure drops. The next step was, how do I want to run lines into those? And drawing those lines coming in from the side helped me reduce redundancy and bringing in too many redstone lines in places where I didn't need to. Instead, just share the systems and stuff like that. There we go. That's the original pixel art map for level 4. You'll notice the lava area. You guys remember me talking about this? The lava area, those smaller circles in the lava area. I was originally gonna have lava dripping from the ceiling, spreading out into lava things. So that stayed pretty accurate. Let me see if there's any other little fun things like this. Probably not. Yeah, I unfortunately don't have. Let me see. I think let me give me like a couple seconds and I'm going to see if I can find the original maps that I drew. Probably not. So this is probably a ghost chase. Yeah, card announcements, cards. 4. No, I'm not seeing. Because yeah, I would love to show you guys like the photoshopped art for like level 1. It's probably gone now. I think it's probably a file somewhere on my drive somewhere, but I can't find it. But anyways, if I ever do, maybe I'll tweet it out or something a bit as like a fun little, you know, here's where level 1 originated from. Has anyone in Mojang reached out to you? No, they haven't. Nor was I expecting them to. Let me close that and that and that. But anyways, Ori's maps were not only cool and fun to show off at the end, but they were incredibly useful for me because I just brought those into Photoshop and I could start dropping locators on them and tracking things and balancing things. Like they were so good for me to manage that way. Back to the questions. Just do the level design first. Yeah, I did the level design first for sure, and then redstoned around it. Yeah. Was there a redstone limitation reason that their cards are pulled every 30 seconds? Could they have been pulled quicker? They could have been pulled quicker. Originally there was like an 18-second limit because of that was the rate at which I could do the audio call outs. I think now we're down to like 10 seconds. I could call them out. So the minimum rate just being how fast we can process a card for it to slide down that ice track, fall in the correct processor, send the signal down to the audio things to play the card, all that stuff needed about 10 seconds. Most of that time was in sending the item down the sorter and stuff like that. But 30 seconds I feel was a pretty good time. I wouldn't change that if we had to do it again. How does the game on off detection work? That's a good question, I suppose. Close that. Game on off is down here. Sorry, I got a little turned around there. Game on off is, and it isn't very like nowhere where you would think it would be, right here. So this line is coming in from the pressure plate. When they get off the minecart and they stand on that pressure plate, that's what actually turns the game on. And it just simply kicks an item over into a dropper, or from here over to there. And then the game turns off either when they leave the exit door in a successful run, or when they press the button in the sleeping bedroom, whatever, right? If they press this button here, it triggers this redstone line here, over here, over here, over here, which this is full of like 100,000 billion iron nuggets, and it just drops an iron nugget down here just for just using gravity, because I didn't want to send a redstone line all the way down here or use any other systems, and it catches it in the hopper, and that's what it turns the game off. So that's all. Very simple. How does it dispense the compasses according to difficulty? Mag might be here for the first part of the stream. Watch the VOD on the second channel when I uploaded. It was one of the first things we talked about, was how compasses get chosen based on difficulty. Do you know about how much lag is caused by the server? We talked about that. I don't think it's too much. How many times? Isn't that a second run counter? It is if I knew how many items I put in there, Mosel. And no, it's not. Because like I said, that only counts people manually turning the game off after they die. It doesn't count people who leave the exit door, because that also turns the game off. How many nuggies in that chest? Probably not many. Let's go see. I think I put a lot of nuggets in there though, originally. But I am curious how many are in there. I know there's still some in there because it's still turning the game off. They're starting to get low. The chest is empty. So we're down to like 700, 800 or so. Not low, I guess, really, but... oh yeah, and then down below, is there a... That's a good question. There's so many spaces here inside the Citadel that are just... There's so much space that was never used. Like, I could have done so much more with the interior of this space. Like, I had a whole nother season. Oh, I'm gonna die. If I had a whole nother season, we could have done so much. Like, it seems silly, but like, just the amount of verticality up here in these towers is so cool to me. Like, watch, yep, everything's great. Oh, I don't have one now. But like, look at this. Look at all this space here. All up in these, like I could put entire farms in here if I wanted to. You know, so much space, and that's just the main tower. There's 5 other towers too. Like, here's another one right here, and that's not even the ceiling. It goes like way above that. Would have been cool to put more farms and stuff in there, I think. Alas, did not happen. Let's go get a party popper. Is there a totem use stat? Yeah, it's hundreds. That's a good question, actually. Let's see. Statistics, items, times used. It's probably, let's see if we can find it. I don't know if it's going to show the party popper here or the regular item. Did I ever look for this? Would it be used? 184? Did we already see it? 184 party poppers. That's a whole lot of parties right there. 184, that's amazing. What else? I mean, there's how long is this stream? Yeah, we gotta wrap this up. Let me keep reading your questions, but if there's any like systems that I'm forgetting, is there anything you should have done to make it easier for you behind the scenes? Yeah, putting a way to switch between monitoring mode and maintenance mode and stuff like that. We talked about that. What causes the heartbeat or arrhythmia skipping a beat on Max Clank? Good question. I don't know. It's got something to do with the comparator cooldown thing. If you want to see the redstone, I did that in like middle of the stream or so. I'm sure people who are interested could figure it out. I'm sure I could figure it out if I really wanted to, but it doesn't bother me. Coin conversion. Oh yeah, let's go down into the frost ember shop, I guess, down there. How much percent of the time of the whole project you spent planning, preparation, designing, creative, crafting, building, and bug fixing? That's a good question. Planning mostly happened earlier and then really tailed off. Designing and all the survival stuff. I mean, obviously survival stuff probably took the most time just because doing things in survival takes forever, but obviously there was a ton of time spent designing systems. Like every one of these redstone systems was all done in creative first. I almost never do. I think I might have done the frost ember system in survival only because it was so much like the treasure system kind of thing, but for the most part they were all done in a creative world. So I can't give you the exact percentages, but that's at least the general guideline. Do you feel like you're better at redstone now that you've done this? Short of a few little tricks and tips, I wouldn't say I'm better. I'm just more, everything is more refreshed in my brain right now. I feel like I could do what I want to do quickly now, where when I started Decked Out, it was like, how does this work again? Because I wasn't really in redstone brain mode, and I've done so much now that there's very few things that I have to design now. It's more of just like, okay, give me one of these, give me one of those, stick them together, and we're good, right? Redstone's about learning individual little suites of tools or little tricks. Every redstoner has their own way of doing something, like, oh, here's a randomizer and here's a pulse extender, and everybody does them differently, but to build a system, all you gotta do is take those systems and kind of jam them together. They're not blocks, they're like little pieces of things. They're in between a full system and a block. You have like these little modules that you just glue together. At least that's how it works for me. And at this point now, I'm like, my set of modules, not that they're the best by any means, but they work for me. So that saying I'm better at redstone just means that those modules are more familiar to me. If we ever design something that you could use as a redstone designer for everyone else, can we send that to you, and how? I mean, I don't want to open my doors to everyone submitting redstone to me. So short answer, no. I do communicate with I have some amazing redstoners on my Patreon server who, if I want to discuss something, we have channels for that and stuff, and they can help me, and that's more than enough. So I guess short answer is yeah, Patreon. Would Decked Out have broken when it was running while the server was restarting? No, I don't think so. I know Etho was concerned about that. I don't think so, because I've taken backups of the world and stuff while it was running and went into those worlds and everything was fine. Was the map worth it even though to do it again in Decked Out 3? Yeah, it was worth it. It was a massive headache, but I think it was worth it, and I think the players thought it was worth it too, especially some of the advanced players. How did you get into Redstone? 12 years ago. I mean, I was like, oh, cool. You know, I was a programming nerd, so I decided, hey, the redstone is cool. I mean, it just wasn't. It was just, hey, it was a fun system, and I could start to make a world interactive and stuff. It was appealing to me. What is the real system you've made so often you can do in your sleep now? System? I mean, it depends how big you mean a system. Like, simple components like pulse extenders and stuff are probably like the most basic thing, but they're not. So yeah, probably like slow pulse extender clocks, but I don't feel like I have a great answer for that. Were the systems that had to be made before other systems? How did you decide the order of system installation? That's a good question. Well, like I couldn't do any of the card processing until I had the main card sorter and shuffler, for instance. Like I had to unload their deck of cards, right, before I could make the shuffler, and I had to have the shuffler before I built the card processors, you know. So there's some of those things that are just logically, but other things like Clank and treasure and stuff were pretty independent and could have come online at any time. They obviously have to be online before. Card processors are pretty much the last thing, because card processors touch everything. You know, oh, this card adds treasure, this card adds clank, this card makes you do this crazy thing, this card turns on a beacon, right? So you wanted to have all your infrastructure stuff turned on before I got to the card processors. Those were last. So some things were order dependent, but a lot of things weren't. Is there a redstone contraption from Canada you wish a future update would help simplify? I don't know. I'm on the fence on this one. Like they just added the copper bulb thing or whatever to simplify. I'm generally not a fan. Like I would never want them to add like a sorter block or anything like that. Or there's some things that I don't think they should add because that takes away from redstone. Redstone is about how well you piece together these different little components I was talking about. Pipes. Yeah, I guess pipes. There is a point where it becomes too modded when one block does too much. Create crosses that line in some cases. I would like a better way to move items around. Yeah. Like I kind of want pipes when I talk about like essentially a hopper that has no suction. Just if you put something into it, it pushes the item in a direction and that's it. And they're super fast and super lightweight and no performance overhead because they just respond to block updates. Like that would be really nice. What's a bug you expected to happen but never did? I thought the question was going to be what's something that you think is a bug that you never discovered. What's a bug that you expected to happen but never did? I don't know. Probably a lot. You guys could probably answer that better than I could. I thought the player's deck was going to get lost more, and they didn't. And there are times when their deck didn't come back, but it almost always was recoverable. But we never really lost the deck of cards. Yeah. Like, I think with Corrales I did, and maybe one other time I had to replace someone's deck when I was working on the shuffler. But probably that. We never really lost a deck of cards, and I really thought we would. I was terrified of that, too, because without screenshots, that's kind of a bad thing. If someone were to build Decked Out 2 with data packs, what feature would you add? A Light Horizon? I don't know. I mean, that's what a weird question to ask. If someone were to build Decked Out 2 with data packs, what feature would you add? I would add the ability to drop treasure and clean up treasure anywhere I want. Yeah, with data packs, you could just put like locators everywhere in the dungeon and just randomly pick one of those locators and be like, whoop, treasure drops there. And you could have hundreds of different treasure drop locations, and it would be amazing and happy fun time. Everything would be great. Do you think the auto crafter will play a part in Decked Out 3? No, I don't think so. I think the auto crafter might play into what I do next season quite heavily, but we'll see. We'll see. Do you think there was enough player testing before the opening of Decked Out? Would you do more or less next time? I don't think there was enough testing, and I think I got really lucky, if I'm honest. I don't think there was nearly enough testing. And I think if anything, there's a shocking amount of, not to toot my horn here, as they say, but there's a shocking amount of guesses I made that turned out to be pretty good and pretty accurate. I feel like just my gut instinct for all of the choices I made for like how the pacing of the game and the costs of things and the rate at which to pull cards and the rate at which to generate hazard and the rate at which to do all these things. Those are all first guesses and they just kind of worked. So I think that worked out well, and whether I got lucky, who knows, but that means some of the things that testing would have helped with there wasn't as much testing required. And surprisingly, the game wasn't too buggy to start either, which is kind of shocking. But I do think, and this is the interesting part, is I can't wait to find out what bugs, like I'm actually interested in finding out, like, hey, did you know that this line here was being clipped and this was never going to work throughout the entire history of the game? And I'd be like, oops. I bet you there's like treasure drops that never got, I've checked all the treasure drops. I know all the treasure drops are dropping. I've tested all of those. I did a lot of internal testing on like treasure drops and stuff. When I hooked them all up, I would make a backup of the world and then I would just spam the treasure event line like a ton of times with like a super fast clock. And then I would go visit all the treasure drops according to the Photoshop maps that I had and make sure that there was a pile of treasure on every one of those. And I definitely found a lot of bugs that way. Like, hey, why is there nothing here? And I backtracked the line, and sure enough, the line was being clipped, or there was a stupid logic error or something. So there was a lot of not player testing, but testing on my own part of testing little subcomponents to make sure that they were signaling correctly. Reportedly, there's some artifact pickup lines that have never worked. Yeah, probably. I can almost guarantee that. Were you happy with the map? Would you have changed anything about how it worked? Do you just mean level design? I'm very, very, very happy with the level design. Yes, there are always some little things I would change, but level design is something I spent a long time on, and I think that's one of the strengths of the game. I think it's a fun dungeon to explore. And you have different feelings based on a different sense of environment based on which level you're on and stuff, which was definitely a goal. How long did you spend redstoning each card on average? There's no, I mean, there's cards that took me 30 seconds, like Sneak, and there's cards that took me many days, like Deep Frost and Cold Snap, and some of the really complicated cards took me a long time to do the card processors for. What was the easiest card to redstone? Probably Sneak. Any of the common cards were very, very simple. Plan to add more centralized stat tracking. Yeah, I really wanted to go through and add stat counters to everything. The best way to do that is to just have a dropper pointing into a barrel. I could have done a lot more, and I didn't, and I kind of regret it just because it would have been really interesting. But at the same time, the guys that run the spreadsheet stuff like had so many stats going that I could never even dream of, that they were better at it than I could have, just because the hive mind is way better than me. Do you plan to add more centralized stat tracking? That was in there multiple times. Do you wish you had documented more of the redstone process in episodes on the main channel? Most of the redstone I think was done on the main channel. I don't know, it was a mix. We did a lot on the main channel, and we also did a lot on stream. So no, I think the blend was good. I like how much I did on stream. It was fun. I made the game better. And then Dead Knight. Would you be more or less into redstone if it was pink? Thanks, Dead Knight. Less. Have you shown the redstone from the main door? I glanced over it because it's very it's not good redstone, and that I think it's bad redstone. It's just the type of system that there's nothing fancy going on. It's just a lot of delays and running signals to various points. It's all time syncing, which is not fun to talk about. It's just bleh. What lessons would you take away from Deck 2 about designing levels to work with Ravagers, Warden? Yeah, I don't think if we did Deck 3, it's not going to be Ravager, Warden, Vex. We may change that model up. Ravagers I'm still pretty happy with, but Warden and Vex are definitely potentially on the chopping block. How many redstone dust, including crafted items, did you need for decked out? I don't know. Tons. I mean, I've gone. It should be measured in stacks of redstone blocks. I went through many stacks of redstone block. More willies, maybe. If you do it again, would you change anything about the offhand map? I think I would have done the redstone for the offhand map a lot cleaner. Yes. I think the content that was shown on the map was probably the best content I could have. I don't have any regrets of like, oh, I wish I put this on the map. Maybe like certain systems came online after the map was done. Like maybe it would have been cool to have a little counter for like how many, like a little recycle icon or something. It was like, oh, you're about to recycle the next card or something, but that's pretty minor. There might have been other little details I could have put on the map, but I don't know. Oh, he is talking. Hi. Every level felt distinct. Even now you have to handle the Ravagers between level 1 and level 2 very differently. Yeah. I mean, Etho's better at this than I am, but I would imagine level 1, handling Ravagers on level 1 is mostly just like quick line of sight because there's a lot of tighter corridors and stuff, and loop them and go and forget. Where level 2, you really have to be like, Where are those Ravagers? Where are those Ravagers gonna be when I'm coming home? This entire tunnel is off limits now because there's two Ravagers. Like, if there's two Ravagers in Mushroom, you have to know that going in so that on your way home you don't come home and watch them because it's so hard to juke two Ravagers in there, kind of thing. And I think it makes for some different gameplay. Yeah, exactly, Etho. Because level 2 was way more wide open, I think. And level 1 was tight quarters. Not as tight as Decked Out 1, but Decked Out 1 was like so short, tight angles and stuff like that, yeah. Do you think the Clank level should have been visible on the map? It's a good question. I would say no, because I think the Heartbeat did a good job of it. And I think the Heartbeat was more immersive than just having a bar representation of it. The Heartbeat was that escalating heartbeat, like, makes your heartbeat go up a little bit subconsciously and adds to a little bit of the tension of the game and stuff. And I thought that was better than just displaying it graphically. Would calibrated skulk sensors be a bigger part in Decked Out 3? Probably. I'm not overly excited about calibrated skulk sensors. I think they're okay. Honestly, the best part about calibrated skulk sensors is the range. I'm not overly excited about the filtering as much as I am having the range. The 16 block range instead of the 8 block range. But I still need to play with them some more too. I wonder if there's a way to have the screen flash red at maximum Clank with a data pack or something, maybe. Probably, yeah. I mean, data packs, you can open up all kinds of things, like titles and stuff. Like, titles would be amazing to use, like, but, you know, it's, to talk about Decked Out with data packs is like, there's so much you could do differently and do better. Can Ravagers trigger skulk sensors? Yeah, but they can't trigger Shriekers. Decked Out 3 will level full floor player locator at all times. I do think that, spoilers for 2 years from now, I do think that a Decked Out 3, my preliminary thoughts are, I'm thinking something like a really, really big magical wizard tower or something with like 10 levels, but the levels aren't as big. I think that might be interesting. Like a lot of levels. Like it's a tall structure. But imagine like level 1, level 2, level 3, and then level 3 branches out to 2 separate level 4s that branch back into level 5, like a little flow chart kind of thing as you progress down. I don't know. I like the idea of just a lot of verticality, and the idea of descending levels I think was pretty immersive and fun. But who knows? Who knows? Make your way up instead of down. Yeah, you could absolutely do that. You could design the whole game where it doesn't have to be inverted like Decked Out 2. You go down and then you have to make your way back out. I could easily design it where it's like you just have to excuse me, you just have to get to the top or get to your location and then there's a way out. And the game could be balanced for that, so you don't have to retract your way back. It depends on whether leaving is fun or not. In Decked Out 2, I think it was fun. I think it was the challenge, getting out. But who knows? Different design, different direction. I would definitely want to change it up. But one of the benefits of a big, tall, vertical tower is the redstone's a little bit easier. I think everything is consolidated into nice, like, vertical bus columns instead of redstone going out in tons of different directions and stuff. But who knows? Who knows? Who knows? All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Unless there's any other, I could go show off down here. Okay, let me show off this real quick because this one is important. This is the artifact. When you hand in your artifact, I'm just gonna gloss over it and show you kind of the concepts behind it. I'm not gonna get into the redstone. But when you hand in your artifact, what's essentially happening is there is a long sorter line that your item, the artifact, is going down. And it's going down the line of hoppers until it can get into the right spot that it goes to. But every one that it's going down and failing, essentially, I have to go down there, sorry. Essentially, every item that is not the item spits out a couple of frost embers and you kind of incrementally build up your total, rather than, there's no, like, if you have an artifact that's worth 20, there's no place where it spits out 20 frost embers. Instead, you're receiving the accumulation of all of the deltas between the values of the artifacts up until the point where you get to yours. So for instance, the first artifact is worth 6. So this first spot here, I think, will spit out 6 frost embers, because no matter what you get, what artifact you get, you're going to get at least 6 frost embers. And then it's going to go into the next one. Where is it? It's actually right here. Yeah, sorry. These guys. So every one of these is filled up in increasing order, the artifacts and how much they're worth, right? So for instance, we'll say, let's go to the third one, I think is the multigrain waffle, right? So as the item's going down here, it ticks this one's got a little extra meat on it, and it's going to give you 6 there, and then it's going to skip over this one and give you 1 tick there. So you're going to get 1 frost ember there for 7, and then it's going to go into this one and give you 1 tick there for 8, etc., etc. And all those items are just spitting out into this water stream back here. So you're getting like 6, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and a couple places where it jumps by 2. It's basically how much the value of the artifact jumps based on the previous lesser value artifact. And then they're all just sent down and you get a summation down there. It's kind of cool. The only problem I had was right here. This was tricky, because again, the water stream has to continue. In retrospect, I should have just dropped the water down, but I didn't do that, and I had them all on the same level. So I originally had pressure plates there and stuff, and some of the items were getting stuck. But with the wall there, it actually had the dropper spit the item into the wall, and it made it like, you know how it gets all crazy, and it spit out either left or right. But it had enough velocity this way where it would hit one of the walls. It would either just hit there or there and then be able to continue down. So the walls seem to solve that. Although recently we were having a couple of issues with not getting the right count. So I don't know, maybe there's still a bug. And then the coin converter, yeah, I don't know. It's all of this is just timing and all the stuff with getting the sounds to play and everything. This is the shop down here. Double-sided shop, essentially. Coin converter is right here. And I'm reluctant to show this off because I know I'm going to get tweets about all the redstone nerds are going to want to tell me what they saw wrong with it. But anyway, you put your items in the barrel there, and they basically just come down here. You got 2 sorters. You got a crown and a coin sorter. Anything else goes into this barrel. Anything else they throw in, other garbage. If you get a coin, if you get a crown, it just automatically bypasses that counter system and goes up here. This is the line that goes to the surface that says give them 1 crown. So if you put a crown in, you obviously get 1 crown out. If you put a coin in, it signals, where is it? Oh, if you get a coin, it's assumed to go by here, and then yeah, this right here, this comparator, and then there's like a little counter here that counts up to 4. So this every 4 resets, and then when it does reset, it gets a signal here, which signals this guy and sends up there. So that's just this is a 4 counter system here, and then the coins go into this guy here, which, man, I just unloaded that like a little while ago. So I suspect, my theory of what's happening is there's probably some very specific case where the coin counter is hitting 4 at the same time that a crown is being detected, and I think this line is being powered twice from both directions, because it's basically just flowing coins and crowns through. So if it goes like 4 coins and then a crown or something like that, there's probably some pattern to it that is powering this line the same both ways. I think if I was to take a look at it, I probably just need to really make this be a dropper hopper counter thing, so it would actually count individual pulses. And then, anyways, I think it could be fixed without too much trouble, but I just haven't got to it. So there's that. How the cards are picked, real quick. I showed this off a long time ago, but I haven't shown it off in many months. I don't even know how to get up there. Let me see. How does this work? Right, so it picks 4 cards. How many cards to pick? 4 or 5. And all it's doing here is picking a 1 of 4 banks. So I don't know how many cards it picks. I think 5. Bank 1 and bank 2 are, so a bank of cards is these groups of 8. So this is bank 1. Bank 1 is always on now. This is bank 2. This is bank 3, and this is bank 4. So right here, it's just choosing which banks are going to have a card appear. Obviously, you can choose the same bank twice, but you'll notice that bank 1 has 2 slots here, and bank 2 has 2 slots here, where bank 3 and 4 only have 1 slot. That's the rarity of the blue cards. So for bank 4 to be chosen is a 1 in 6 chance, where bank 1 to be chosen is a 1 in 3 chance kind of thing. And then based on what bank is chosen, it goes over. There's 4 of these guys here that basically just have these tokens here for. I thought I was about to get baby stomped there. Has these 4 markers here for the cards within its bank. And then it just spits it up here and goes to a standard item sorter and then spits it back out and it loops around. So pretty straightforward, but it's about choosing the banks first. That's how you get the card rarity. That makes sense. We're done. I am fatigued. My brain hurts. And I'm probably no longer making sense. And you guys have heard enough, probably. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next week, we will be ready for the world download stream. You got it, Dead Knight. Again, if anyone has questions about the redstone noises, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If anyone has questions about the redstone next stream, I'll still try to answer some of them. Hopefully, most of them got answered now. I'm sure there are a million left over. Next week, we'll be doing the world download stream. That'll probably be a long stream. And it's just going to be me filling droppers and replacing mobs and adding signs and stuff. But I will want you guys around to like be that person who is, you know, hi, I just downloaded the world. What do I do? How do I do the thing? And those questions that you present to me will allow me to, will tell me where I need to put a sign or where I need to put a book or something like that. So I think it'll be a collaborative effort, us getting the world download ready. And that's it. Plus I want to make sure the hermits are kind of done playing too. They're still playing quite a bit. So that'll be sometime next week. It might be Monday. I don't know. We'll see. Monday or Wednesday of next week, depending on how I'm feeling and how other things are going. We good? My brain's mush right now, and I've done a lot of talking. Is there anyone to raid? Chatting for a bit? Yeah, we can raid MB. Raid Impulse SV. Bloop. Okay, guys. Head on over. It looks like he's going to be playing Lethal Company, which looks like a pretty cool game. And I will see you guys next week. Have yourself a good weekend. Thank you for hanging out. And hopefully this was interesting for some of you. Right. Goodbye.
It was one of the brilliant